Brain. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
The Pinky and the Brain. Yes, Pinky and the Brain. One is a genius, the other's insane. They're laboratory mice. Their genes have been spliced. They're Pinky and the Brain. Brain, 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 brain. Before each night is done, their plan will be unfurled by the dawning of the sun. They'll take over the world. They're Pinky and the Brain. Yes, Pinky and the Brain. When twilight can reign is easy to explain. To prove their mousy worth, they'll overthrow the earth. They're Pinky and the Brain. Brain, 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 brain. Nerve!
Well, good evening, good evening. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is Fightback Late Night. It is 10:30 on the East Coast. We started off with the Pinky and the Brain theme because it's the theme I use on my show, my other show that we send to iHeartRadio. This is an idea that I just can't get over. I just have to keep talking today. We did 2 hours earlier. 2 hours earlier. And we'll probably do more tonight. Some good things have happened. Today I found a young man from Houston who is a host who has a show here on Spreaker, and we're going to play one of his rants sooner than later because it is it's important, and I don't know what. And frankly, we've got some tropical storm nonsense going on now. I am of the mind that it's a weak tropical storm, and you know, people in this area can fight off tropical storms, especially weak tropical storms. Just like going to work on a Tuesday, it's pretty easy to do. Some areas may experience some flooding. But I'll tell you, most of the areas that experience flooding are the same areas that always experience flooding. So, not that I'm real worried about any of it. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite. I'm not really worried about any of it. None of it, really. So, we'll see how the day goes. I wanted to make sure that we're able to do some broadcasting this evening. That way, we have some in the can. We're doing really well. The new show, the new format's doing really well. I'm really excited about it, and it's because of what you've been able to do, and how you handle things, and how you share the show with your friends, and how you get people to listen. We have not done any paid. We've not done any paid promotion this month. Now, I'll be frank with you. It's not because we haven't wanted to, but we haven't had the means to. Hopefully, we will be gaining some means here in the next couple of days, and put together a plan to do some paid promotion to get eyeballs and earballs. Earballs? Yeah, earballs. Well, why not? To the show. Because we've got some things to say that I think that no one else is saying. As a matter of fact, I'm going to let's see if we can do this. I'm doing this by myself. We don't have the benefit of a producer and all the stuff that that people on terrestrial radio have, or even some of the more hip, more financially successful podcasts do. We're going to go ahead and play a rant from a gentleman by the name of Joseph White. Joseph White is from Houston, Texas, and he was in the chat room on my show today, and I saw that he had done a rant about what he says is a dirty little secret in the black community, and it is the antithesis. It's important. Not because he's pointing out deficiencies in the black community, and this is what we have to get a lot of black people to understand. We're not just enjoying ourselves by pointing out deficiencies in our community, but we're fighting back against the liberal narrative, what the leftist narrative is for the solutions for these problems. You know what? There is no I'm not less black. I'm not being apologetically black for pointing out the things that aren't correct. I think that I would be more apologetically black if I am not pointing out, if I'm not being truthful, I'm not pointing out the problems in our communities. And my deal is that it's important not only that we operate in truth, that we point out these things that are going on in our community, but point out the reasons why they're going on. They're not all due to systemic racism. They're not all due to the white man and 400 years of slavery. They're not all due to the Jewish people who control all the money. That's not what's going on here. A lot of it's culture, and a lot of it's our own failing. And I'm not apologizing for anybody's behavior. That's just what it is. And the greatness in that, the power in that, is that we can solve it ourselves. We don't need anybody else's help. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip from Joseph White. Joseph White's from Houston, Texas. 32-year-old young black conservative, and he's got a lot to say. Let's see if we can play this. And we're going to go ahead and hit the button. Can I hit the button? Hit the button.
Dirty little secret in the black community that I'm going to talk about today. That secret is for if you're educated, if you speak the English language correctly, or if your parents have, they don't even have to be rich. If they're able to pay their bills and not leech off the government, you're somehow not black. Or you're not black enough because you didn't go to jail, so you don't have street credit. Only black people are stupid enough to put that idea in another black person's head. You have to go to jail to get street credit from us. Seriously? Come on, man. Like, aren't we smarter than that? I would hope so. Come on, black people. We should all be educated and well off. There's no reason for 58% of our community to be on food stamps. I don't understand. Go buy your own food. Government leeches. That's what the Democrat Party has created in the black community. Government leeches and leeches, period. Because leeches will say to a black man like Michael Jordan, why don't you reinvest some of your money into the community? Man, white people don't ask Bill Gates, why doesn't he reinvest in the white community? Because America is a community in itself. We don't have to feel obligated to giving some of our hard-earned money to black people that ridiculed us growing up. Now, don't give me that. You know you ridiculed us growing up. You talk like a white boy. You look white. Oh, why you going to school? Why you doing homework? Why you trying to be smart like white people? Oh, black people that's stupid. I'm really beginning to think so. And it's very unfortunate for us. We ain't gonna end nowhere but in the ditch. Like the Bible say, blind lead the blind, they all fall in the ditch. You got blind leaders called Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, who they do what they do for money, and you niggas ain't smart enough to see that. And the people like me who aren't out here for money, we trying to wake your ass up, we get called Uncle Tom. Oh Lord. Oh well, other than that, that's my rant for the day. I'm pretty sure a lot of you black people gonna have something to say about it. But if I'm wrong in anything I said, challenge me.
The young man's name is Joseph White from Houston, Texas, and we had a conversation through the chat. I'd like to welcome my friend Paul Swanson to the chat. Thank you everyone so much for listening in. It's not quite as late there. Where he is in the in the most northern of outposts up in Wisconsin. So it's not quite as late there as it is here. Just because Paul asked again, it's soggy. It's been raining, sort of, not even a hard rain, but a constant rain all day long. We don't have much wind. This is one of those tropical storms where, you know what, it's really more of a rain event. More, again, like I said, more of a flooding event. Especially because it's moving so slow, only like 2 miles an hour. The problem with that is that it just sits over. When it comes online, if it doesn't move any faster than that, it just sort of sits over areas and it just sort of pees on them and pees on them and pees on them until you have flooding, and that's really the problem. I don't think there's going to be any damage. We're just going to see it's a big rain event. Which is not a big deal, because if you've been in Florida in the summertime, every Thursday afternoon is a big rain event. We've not had any violent thunderstorms. We've not had any wind. There's been no tornado damage, no wind damage, nothing really. Now schools are closed in a few of the surrounding counties, the county that I'm in, and some surrounding counties, but it's really, it's much ado about nothing. Really, much ado about nothing. It's just a time for the weather people to get all jacked up and get their nipples all hard so they can be on television, so they can actually get some FaceTime on the TV, and they can use all their toys, and and that gets them all excited, and helps them in their contracts, but other than that, nothing really going on. Government officials are sort of embarrassed or forced into, or bullied, if I may, into making announcements and proclamations and all that kind of nonsense. The governor was here. Well, if it was that dangerous, the governor wouldn't have driven or flown from Tallahassee into hell, would he? Of course not. So it wasn't that dangerous. So the governor was here, making sure that all the emergency response people had their it together, and no big deal. Really, not a big deal at all. All right. More importantly, Joseph White. Joseph White's 32-year-old black man living in Houston, Texas, looking for a way to say what he has to say and get heard. We talked a little bit in chat about what to do. How do we up our status so what we say is heard by, first of all, the people that need to hear it. I said the other day as I was talking, I don't know whether it was on this show or if it was on the Blog Talk Radio show, is that the problem with, I didn't really have a problem with the speech that Donald Trump gave the other day, but he was in Wisconsin, I believe. He made his appeal to black people, to African Americans, if you must. And ending that statement with "What the hell do you have to lose?" Well, he made that, of course, talking to TV cameras. But there were so few black people in the crowd. The problem is that you got to make that speech in front of the NAACP. You got to make that speech in front of the Urban League. That's where you got to make that speech. You got to make that speech. If you're going to do it on TV, make sure that it ends up on TV One. Make sure that it ends up on BET. Somehow, if you got to pay the money, make sure it happens, because that's where that stuff has to be heard. And a lot of people were upset. Of course, the liberal left was upset because he had said these things about the urban community. The only problem about what he said is that it's all true. That's what he said. I did a video last night talking about poverty, talking about unemployment, in the in the urban community, and the only thing that bothered me about the things that Trump said was that they were all true. And what bothers me more is that if you're going to be pissed off about something, if you're going to be angry about the things that Trump said, you need to be angry about that the truth in the statements. That's what ought to piss you off. It ought to piss you off that still only 59% of black males graduate from high school. That should make you furious. That should make your blood boil. It should make you show up at the teachers union, at the NEA meetings with with pitchforks and torches, ready to burn the damn place to the ground. That's what you ought to be upset about. That's what you ought to be pissed off about. That's what you ought to be upset about. That is true. Is that all the worst schools are in the urban communities. That's what you ought to be angry about. And all the lowest performing schools are in the urban community. That's what you should be upset about. And if you're not upset about that, I don't know what the hell you're upset about. The fact that he said it makes you upset, not the fact that it's true. It's ridiculous. It's insane that the fact that it's true makes you upset. So that's the kind of stuff that, frankly, that we have to get over. That's the kind of stuff that we really, really need to start looking at ourselves with some, what our communities, with some introspection and going, exactly what the hell is our problem? Where are we failing as a community? Where are we failing? Where are we failing as a community? Where are we failing? Not that, and Paul's right. Facts don't care about your feelings. You know what? And I'll use the phrase that Milo Yiannopoulos used. I don't give an F about your feelings when things are true, when there are facts. I don't give a F about your feelings. Who cares? Doesn't make any difference to me. The fact of the matter is that a lot of the things that Trump said were true. Thanks to Paul Swanson being out there. We figured this whole thing. We're starting to figure this thing out. Dag nabbit, we are starting to figure this thing out. He shipped me the real quick, sort of under the table, the some of the link for the speech that Trump gave in Wisconsin on the 16th, and I'm going to go ahead, and it's 38 minutes long. I'm not going to play all of it, not right now anyway, but we're going to play a good portion of it. I wish I had a third person to go through the speech and tell me where to start at when he starts talking about when he starts making his appeal to the urban community, because that's the part I want to play. I want to play the part where Trump makes his appeal to the urban community, and basically ends it with, "What the hell do you have to lose?" And I think that the left gets upset because Trump is right. Trump says exactly what Sonny Johnson said in her speech or her piece at Right Online last year, that we play on this show all the time, and we will play tonight. If you've not heard it, we're going to play it tonight. Especially about education, especially about who controls your community? Who are the people who champion your trap? So that's really that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about this kind of stuff tonight. We're talking about, let's talk about what's actually real. Let's talk about what the actual problems are. And let's concentrate on that. Again, if you don't like, it's one thing, okay, so you're not a big fan of Donald Trump. Okay, alrighty. I've got some good friends that are still posting things that they don't like about Donald Trump. And what they don't like about, Donald Trump supporters. Okay, now I get it. Sometimes Donald Trump supporters, especially early on, reminded me of Scientology people, or worse, they reminded me of what's his name, Ron Paul supporters. That reminded me of Scientology people. The same sort of glazed over look that was kind. Okay. Thanks, Paul. That was that was frankly kind of weird. So I'm really, I really understand. However, once you listen to what he says, I want you to fight me on what he says. Thanks to my friend Paul. Paul has shipped me the link to Trump's pitch to African Americans. We're going to go ahead and play that right now. And if I can press all the right buttons, and I think I can, golly, we are about to figure this crap out. Thank you, Paul.
has been more harmed by Hillary Clinton's policies than African Americans. If Hillary Clinton's goal was to inflict pain on the African American community, she could not have done a better job. Tonight, I'm asking for the vote of every single African American citizen in this country who wants to see a better future. And at the end of 4 years, I guarantee you that I will get over 95% of the African American vote. I promise you.
Donald Trump making another push for a major voting bloc. Will his words
all right. Now, again, could things be worse? And we're gonna go ahead and play the rest of that. It's not very long. I'm gonna go ahead and play the rest of that. But has anybody, you know what, people, and of course there are Republicans who are saying, well, we shouldn't be playing identity politics. Well, you know what? If the team you're playing in a sporting event is playing offense and they're throwing the ball, you should probably play the, you know what, you should probably throw the ball too. They're not cheating because they're throwing the ball. The left has carved out these people groups, and they are marketing to these people groups, and not to market to them is silly. So Donald Trump finally markets to the African American group. He probably markets to the urban community. I think that that's probably a good idea. I think that that's a really good idea. Go ahead and do it. It's all right. It's all right. It doesn't, you know what? It doesn't bother me at all that he marketed to the urban community, that he marketed to black people. That's okay. That's okay. And I don't really, frankly, I don't care if he didn't get all the stats exactly correct. I don't really care about that. The fact of the matter is that life in the urban community sucks. And it has sucked more under in the administration of a black president that was supposed to be Black Jesus. That was supposed to bring freedom and prosperity and love and all this stuff to the community, and it brought nothing to the community. Nothing has changed. Sonny Johnson says it best.
Show you how I would deliver this conservative message to the black community. Can I do that real quick? I hear you. I feel you. I get it. Life in your America sucks. Your parents didn't care or weren't there. The schools pushed you out without making sure you can read. Politicians tell you that a brighter tomorrow, so you smoke as much as you can to get through today. You are tired of seeing your brothers, sons, daughters, cousins, your friends killed, imprisoned, or lost to drugs. You want to do the right thing, but all it takes is one time, one mistake for everything to go wrong. And picking yourself up seems impossible because you can't get a job when you have a record. You're sleeping on your mama's couch because you can't afford your own space. You feel unfit to parent your children because your life is so screwed up. What in the hell are you going to teach them? I get it. I know. But you are being surrounded by the people that championed your tracks. They developed your public housing. They took control of your education. They sent your fathers to jail for nonviolent offenses. Made single motherhood cool by calling it feminism. Built the police force through unionization you claim harassed you. And now when you're fed up, they give agitators reign to burn down your state. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. If your friends are yelling for death and destruction, do they actually want change? Is that what you live in now? Democrats want to be the party of the poor. In order for that to happen, they have to keep you poor. You always have to fight the oppressors. That will mean you are always oppressed. You call us the party of the rich. And I'm straight out of the States South. Well, I had it written down already. We just say like, you call us the party of the rich. And I'm not going to be spineless like those who run from it. I'm not rich, but by the grace of God, I will be. I love the feeling of security. I love being financially dependent on no one but myself and my husband. I love being able to provide my daughters with Nikes and books, an iPad and robotic chips. It is a great feeling. Now come and eat with us. Come and eat with us. If you are tired of being poor and overlooked, come and eat at a table that believes in ownership and growth. See, we won't begrudge your success because we know that the next dinner is on you.
That's Sonny Johnson. That was at Right Online in Washington, D.C. last year about this time. Golly, what a great thing to go to. I'd like to thank my friend Ali Akbar for giving me the scholarship from the Americans for Prosperity to make that trip. They AFP gave some people like me hotel rooms and flew us up there on beautiful Southwest to D.C. and we stayed there over the weekend, and it was great. It was a life-changing experience. I'm telling you, that 3 minutes right there was worth the whole trip. That 3 minutes for me was worth the entire trip. It changed my viewpoint. It changed my life. It really did. In a way, and I know that sounds hyperbolic and all hyper emotional, but it really did. It really said to me, you know what? There is a way to speak to my community in a way that they understand. You know what? Relevance is extremely important. You know, when we're doing, we're involved in the Tea Party movement, and we're talking about taxes and those kind of things and financial things that really didn't, quite frankly, weren't relevant to a lot of the people that we were talking to. When we were talking about a community, unfortunately, that most people don't pay any taxes, especially federal income tax. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. When you start talking about federal income tax and how, the truly wealthy pay most of them, and you start talking about spreading that, that burden out, you start really talking about, wait a minute, wait. You talking about me paying taxes too? Wait, no. They're not interested. Again, so all those messages were not designed for people who weren't paying taxes. The whole taxed enough already was the Tea Party mantra, that you couldn't take that message, frankly, and it be effective in the urban community because you weren't talking to people who are paying taxes. You were talking to a lot of people who were on public assistance. You were talking to a lot of people who depended on the rich people paying taxes and people paying taxes for their very subsistence. So you were going to have to redesign the message. You weren't going to have to change the heart of the message, but you were definitely going to have to redesign the deliverance and the things you talked about, because you couldn't talk about them in the same way because they weren't relevant. And if they're not relevant, it won't land. It won't stick. So when I heard Sonny put things that way, I thought, Jesus, help me. Thank you. This is exactly what I've been looking for. And I recorded it that day. What you heard is a recording that I made on my Zoom. I actually I did an interview with her the next week. She called the show. I did an interview with her. I did an interview with Brandon Darby. I mean, that 45 minutes, in that little conference room at the Marriott Hotel, was just an amazing 45 minutes. It changed my life. All right, listen, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of Fight Back here on Spreaker. Hopefully soon to get our iHeartRadio tag, and then we'll be worldwide, baby. Worldwide. We'll be right back right after these messages. Listen, this show would not be possible if it weren't for our affiliate partners. If it wasn't for people like Gary Knight at New Homes Tampa Bay. If it weren't like Kevin Batts at theredriverchronicle.com. So, it is getting near the end of the month, so let's talk about the Red River Chronicle. The Red River Chronicle is a website that is full of fantastic conservative articles, conservative educational tools. I think that's the coolest thing. Spent 15 years in teaching in the public school system, and you know what? These educational tools are something that you can use yourself, that you can use in a classroom setting, that you can direct students to, sort of on the sly. Because it's, frankly, I think the battle is just like that. If you're working in the public school system, and you're in a social studies classroom, I use social studies because it's the easiest transition. And a student comes to you and says, "Where do I learn more about conservatives?" Well, the very first place you should send them is not townhall.com, is not the Rush Limbaugh site, or even the Willie Lawson show necessarily. You need to send them right to the redriverchronicle.com. Articles written in a scholarly way, primarily information about Oklahoma and Texas, but from a very conservative standpoint. And you know what? Kevin Batts is black, so that helps your students because that throws away and destroys the left's picture of who's supposed to be conservative. So you can also, on that site, that student will have access to Hillsdale College lectures, which I think are invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. And there's also an app that they can purchase. I did. It's all of 99 cents. I purchased it. That keeps you up to date with what's going on the redriverchronicle.com website. That's the redriverchronicle.com website. The finest in conservative information and education. Information is crucial when you're looking to purchase a new home. With so many choices of communities and options, choosing the right one for you and your family can be a daunting task. That's why you need to go to New Homes of Tampa Bay right now, www.newhomestpa.com, and get the information you need. Learn how people save thousands of dollars when purchasing new homes. Buy like the pros. New Homes Tampa Bay, www.newhomestpa.com. You're tired of the cold? You're tired of the taxes? It's time to move to Florida. And our friend Gary Knight at New Homes of Tampa Bay is the perfect person to help you. You can just give Gary a call at 813-770-9452, or you can go to the website to look for your brand new home at www.newhomestpa.com. Move to Florida. It's about time. It's all the rage to call and order flowers from 1-800-whatever, or go online and order them from some nameless, faceless person on the other end. I'm saying you should do something different. You should, before doing that, call my friends at Bloomingdale's Flower Shop, located right here in Tampa, Florida, at 11618 North Florida Avenue, 33612. Christine and her staff don't look at just the order. They look at the customer. They look at your occasion. They consider the entire person, the entire occasion, before making decisions about design and price. You're more than just a customer. You're a friend. Call our friends at Bloomingdale's Flower Shop, toll free at 1-800-330-3297. 1-800-330-3297. Local 813-971-5947. 813-971-5947. You can reach them on the web at www.bloomingdays.com. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to Fightback here on Spreaker. It's Fightback Late Night. Well, we're going to basically do talk about some of the issues of the day, and we're also going to bring you some of, I think, some of our classic stuff. And the classic stuff is important. The stuff that we want you that I want you to hear. That I wanted to make sure that I did a show and was able to sort of take long form and play and get you to, because I think it's important. The whole idea of the Fightback Media Group is to build a platform by which a lot of people who are speaking to the urban community can attach to, and sort of build like a scaffolding that they could attach their banner to, or their tapestry to. And there are some sort of founders and that have built a foundation already, and that I don't think a lot of people have heard, or not nearly enough people have heard them speak on any number of things. And one of those people is a person that I'm proud to call a friend. His name is K. Carl Smith. K. Carl Smith is the founder, the new founder of the Frederick Douglass Republicans. And the Federal Republicans is not just a group of black Republicans. It's actually a way to look at Republicanism, to look at conservatism, and to spread that message. So we're going to play the audio from a short video. That's the way it's not so short. It's actually 6 minutes. That I think needs. It's one of those things that I want to get more into the public record. Not that I'm the savior of K. Carl Smith. K. Carl's doing quite well without me, but you know what? I think he could do a little better with me. So what you're going to hear for the next 5 minutes and 52 seconds is my friend K. Carl Smith. Hang on. I can do this. Maybe I can do this. Hang on a second. Maybe I can't do this. I can. I can press all the right buttons. I swear to you I can. All right. Just one moment.
I know I was born black, but I also thought I was born a Democrat. Hi, I'm K. Carl Smith. I'm better known as the conservative messenger. I am a Frederick Douglass Republican. It's not about color, it's about values. I believe in the 4 life empowering values of Frederick Douglass: respect for the Constitution, respect for life, believe in limited government, and belief in personal responsibility. I want a more efficient government. I want a federal government that operates within the limits of the Constitution. I want to keep more of the money that I make so I can provide for my family. I want life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. Don't you? I don't want slave master entitlements. I'm like Frederick Douglass. He ran away from slave master entitlements. See, the federal government is the modern day slave master. Before we even get our check, the federal government is already taking its share out of our pockets. That's enslavement. Only thing the government should be worried about, if it has funds to run its legitimate operation as authorized by the Constitution. I don't want the federal government to tell me what I can make, how much I can make. There's nothing wrong with creating wealth. Douglas created wealth. I have a problem with being poor. I can't help anybody when I'm poor. It was the Democrat Party that was the party of Jim Crow, segregation laws, and black codes. And it was the Republican Party that championed black civil rights. Was George Wallace a Democrat or Republican? Was Bull Connor a Democrat or Republican? Which political party started the Ku Klux Klan, better known as the KKK? Are you voting your values, or are you voting Democrat just for the sake of family tradition? The party that viciously enslaved my great-grandfather somehow deceived me and tricked me to gain my vote. I was voting for my own oppression and didn't know it. The Democratic Party is the party of propaganda. We've been deceived. We've been tricked. We've been misled. Become part of the Frederick Douglass Republican movement. This is the movement that's going to help this country get back on track by first saving the Republican Party. We need your involvement. Blacks, Hispanics are just as conservative than their white counterparts. They just happen past that liberal vote. We want to turn values into votes in 2012 and beyond. Are you voting values? Are you voting in a way that shows your love and your allegiance to the God you say you serve? Once we can help people understand in a non-condescending way that they are not voting their values and have them do a self-examination, we can turn this country around. We can win in 2012 and beyond. The Republican Party, that's my heritage. It's the party of Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman. Help us to get today's Republican Party back on track to where it was in time of Douglass. We need your help. Consider starting a Frederick Douglass Republican group. We'll help you do it.
You know, K. Carl Smith is one of the people who really have sort of changed how I look at things, and that these messages are important, and that we can get them and we can get them out. These are some of the folks that it is so important that we make sure people hear about. It sort of breaks my heart a little bit when K. Carl came to Tampa, golly, 2 years ago, and there were people coming to me saying, "We've got this great guy coming to Tampa. He's K. Carl Smith. Ever heard of him?" And K. Carl Smith and I had been talking, had been on my show a couple of times, and had been talking. Had been talking for, frankly, a couple of years. Yeah, I've heard of K. Carl Smith. Yeah, Federal Republicans. Yeah, I knew all about it. But we had not gotten a big enough audience that enough people knew about him, and frankly, I felt condemned because I had not helped. I felt bad because I had not helped. I had not gone and made the difference. I had not brought K. Carl Smith. I wish I could have said I brought K. Carl Smith to Tampa, Florida, that I brought K. Carl Smith to Florida. But I hadn't. So, you know what? When we started Fightback Media Group last week, I thought to myself, you know what I am going to do? I'm going to at least bring K. Carl Smith and my friend C.L. Bryant and some other folks to you here in the Fightback Media Group. As we start this new thing, I'm going to bring these folks to you. People that you might not have heard of before, but you damn sure need to. You damn sure need to, because they're saying stuff that's so important, and they're saying it in a way to the right people that can really make a positive difference, a positive change. Now, here's somebody else that you might not have heard of. I don't know how you've not heard of Alfonso Rachel. I can't even imagine how you've not heard of Alfonso Rachel. But you're going to hear from him this evening. Another video about 6 minutes or so, but it is about something that just happened. It's topical. The whole idea last Sunday, I guess, Colin Kaepernick, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, decided, well, I'm guessing that he decided, I'm thinking that he was cajoled, asked, pushed by the chick he's dating. Chick he's dating is some Islamic chick, some Muslim chick who was involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, and that he was pretty much bullied into using, quote, his platform, which is getting smaller and smaller because his place sucks, to make a stand by not standing for the national anthem. And he didn't just do that. Then he spoke up on why he didn't do it. Well, my friend Alfonso Rachel has something to say about that, and you're going to hear from Alfonso Rachel. I think I've got this set. I think I can do it. Ready, go.
Man, get up here in the Zoloft and get your head right. Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Zoloft. Dang, Colin, isn't it sad that you're more famous now for sitting down than any amazing work you did standing up on the field? But to your credit, you have been awarded a most valuable player. But maybe now you can start a new category for most valuable sitter. But then again, if your butt hurts so bad, I don't know if sitting down is a good remedy for it. But you want to butthurt about racist America and how unfair it is to black folks. For realies? Despite having highly paid black men to your left and to your right on your team, getting paid long money to do what they love doing, living the American dream? Yeah, America is so unfair. Oh, and in case you missed it, you were adopted by white parents. How unfair is that? You want to talk about how unfair white folks are to blacks and take it out on the American flag. Yet, the very first person to be unfair to you was a black man. That being your own father who walked out on you and your mom. And the sad fact is that oftentimes the most unfair people to black people and the first to be unfair to black people are their own fathers who walk out on them and their mothers. But all this racism and injustice that y'all are talking about, that's not what the American flag stands for. The U.S. flag represents this republic that was founded to respect the God-given rights of every human being. It's not the flag's fault that people take it for granted and misrepresent what it stands for their own selfish reasons. You have slandered, misrepresented, and dishonored the American flag. You're no better, dude, and all those who think like you. You don't even see that you have earned the American dream. A black man cheered by whites, blacks, and all in between. They pay to marvel at you and your team do what you love. And despite all this white privilege that people keep talking about, there's a lot of white folks out there that ain't living the dream. But you want to make some self-righteous statement about unfairness? You ain't doing black folks or anybody any favors by sitting down, dude. I'm going to take a stand by sitting down. I'm not going to turn the other way. However, you standing is proof that a black man is succeeding with his passion. That's the real inspiration that's helpful. And as a man succeeding in his passions, that's inspiring for all men. Much more than you sitting down. But maybe you don't want proof against this idea of unfairness. Maybe you're more comfortable being miserable. Maybe you find more validation in being miserable than being a football player. There's lots of people like that. Despite having so much, they cling to their misery. And then there's the people that you're lamenting about dying in the streets. These are another group of people, but what they have in common with people like you is that they cling to their misery and their bitterness. And they take it out on each other. They despise each other. They murder each other and show total disregard for life. But you want to start tripping because a cop shoots them first before getting gunned down like they do each other? Man, your own father is an example of proof that nobody despises the black man that you're lamenting over more than other black men. And the only other ones who despise blacks as much as the black man is the black woman. Because sadly, more than any other ethnic group in America, the black woman will kill her child before that child has ever had a chance at anything. You want to talk about unfair. And of course, this ain't all black men and this ain't all black women. Just like with anybody else, you'll find folks among them that are just as decent as anybody else. Just as hardworking, courageous, full of integrity and golden character. The problem is those are the ones that you accuse of trying to be white. Oh, the irony. When a black person is hardworking, educated, friendly, courteous, well-mannered, and well-spoken, you accuse them of trying to be like people you insist are evil. Twilight Zone, man. And of course, I'm going to get accused with all the racial epithets while they accuse other white people of being bigots. I'm going to be accused of seeking the white man's approval. Meanwhile, y'all are the ones who are always voting in rich white Democrats. And why do you vote for them? Because you want them to approve things for you. You vote for them because you want their approvals. While you're accusing me of wanting the white man's approval. And y'all think about white people way more than I do. Yeah, I want the white man's approval so bad that when they get in office, the first thing I want them to do is get out of my way. And you're going to go vote for the high priestess of white privilege herself, Hillary Clinton, because you want her to approve things for you. But I get it. You don't see it that way. You're going to vote for Democrats because you think they're in your corner. And I just have to remind you, as I said before, the Democrats are not in your corner. They're the ones who've been cornering you. They are the face of the true unfairness that you're upset about in America. That ain't the flag's fault, y'all. But anyway, your self-righteous stance or sit instead only helps perpetuate and encourage the mindset that keeps too many blacks from pursuing their happiness and leads them to pursue making others as miserable as they are. I'm gonna take a stand by sitting down.
All right, again, Alfonso Rachel. It just doesn't, as far as I'm concerned, frankly, it doesn't get a whole bunch better than that. And if you'll do what I'd like you to do, I would like you to go to, if you like that, go to alfonsorachel.com. That's Alfonso with a Z, Rachel.com, and support what he's doing. He has books. He's got some, I've got some stuff playing in my ear. There you go. He's got books. He's got CDs of his band called 20 Pound Sledge. He has a Christian rock band that he plays drums in. And Support what he's trying to do. And that's the whole idea of a Fightback Media Group, is support what he's trying to do. Support what he's trying to say. If you can't do anything else, go to YouTube and search for his videos. Now that you've heard the audio from one of his latest ones, and share that with your friends as many times as you possibly can. Why? Because these are the kind of things that need to be heard. I will say that what I've done. Hey Joseph, good to see you, man. Good to see you back. Yeah, I'm still at it. Yeah, I was doing this crap 12 hours ago, and I'm still at it. I am proud to say that I brought Alfonso Rachel to Tampa. Zoe flew out for a Juneteenth celebration that I was a part of, that I put on when I was a member of the African American Republican Club of Hillsborough County. He came out and he was our keynote, and it was great. It was just great. And so I'm still trying to promote Zoe with everybody that I know, and there was no way that we could put together Fightback Media Group and not support Zoe and not get people to support him. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm not trying to get him to change. What I want people to do is to hear what he has to say, because Zoe says it better than I can say it. Zoe says what Zoe says much better than I can say it. K. Carl Smith says what he says much better than I could say what K. Carl says and what K. Carl's about. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that everybody gets their thing. Like early, and I'm sorry that Joseph White just showed up in the chat room, because I played earlier Joe's rant that he has on Spreaker, but he says he can say it a lot better than I can. I can tell you about what he said, but he says it better because it comes from him. And what we're trying to do is that we're trying to build an infrastructure, a scaffolding that we can get above the din of mainstream media. We can get above the den of mainstream media, which is corrupt through and through and dead, and is an impediment to improvement in our community. That, as a matter of fact, that they don't benefit if our community gets better. That we can still stay under their thumb. That we can still stay under the thumb of the slave master. That we can stay under their thumb, because that's what they want us to be. That's what they want the urban community. So that's why they fight urban conservatives so vehemently. That's why they fight us so vehemently. Because if our message gets to people's heart, it will blow up their world. It will destroy their world. Like Joe and I were talking about earlier this afternoon, about 12 hours ago, that if people actually hear us, if people actually hear Alfonso Rachel, if they actually hear K. Carl Smith, and later on we're going to hear from my other friend C.L. Bryant, if they actually hear from us, it blows up their whole world. It's like being told that you're at 40 years old that you've been adopted. You know, my wife and I were talking about earlier after I came home from work. Her parents, lifelong Democrats, their world was kind of blown apart politically as they got older, as they got into their 50s and 60s, and figured out that that the same people who were Democrats who had been talking to them for years and years and years had actually been using them and lying to them. That a lot of the things that they had talked about and said simply weren't true. Politically, it blew up their world. And you've got to do all sorts of introspection. You've got to pull on all sorts of emotional duct tape to sort of tie that back up. Because a lot of times people get angry. I talk to people all the time when they finally start figuring out that mainstream media and the people that they respected have been lying to them. They've been lying to them about their own communities. They've been lying to them about who Republicans are and what conservatism is. And these people, you know, the boogeyman that they keep putting in front of them is not the boogeyman. that they get angry once they open their eyes and start seeing that this thing that they're supposed to be so afraid of is not frightening at all. It's actually the answer to break their chains. They get angry. Listen, I'm going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of Fightback right after these messages. Thank you for staying, and thanks for coming on. We got another hour or so. We're going to play a whole bunch of stuff. As a matter of fact, we're going to end the show with my hour interview with Brandon Darby of Breitbart, Texas. So hang in, enjoy, and listen, go to our sponsors, go to our affiliate partners. Help us out. Help us. Help them. Help us. Home perfectly than a brand new grand piano. And if you're looking for a piano for your brand new home, you've got to visit Dave's Piano. And that's davespianoshowroom.com. If you're looking for the perfect thing to set off your new home, a piano is what you're looking for. And my friend Dave has the perfect piano for you. And the best thing about buying a piano from Dave is that he does everything. He delivers, he sets up, he tunes, he takes care of everything. The best part about Dave's Piano, quite frankly, is Dave. So when you buy a piano from Dave's Piano Showroom, you only deal with Dave. You can reach them at www.davespianoshowroom.com. That's davespianoshowroom.com. It's all the rage to call and order flowers from 1-800-whatever or go online and order them from some nameless, faceless person on the other end. I'm saying you should do something different. You should, before doing that, call my friends at Blooming Days Flower Shop, located right here in Tampa, Florida, at 11618 North Florida Avenue, 33612. Christine and her staff don't look at just the order. They look at the customer. They look at your occasion. They consider the entire person, the entire occasion, before making decisions about design and price. You're more than just a customer. You're a friend. Call our friends at Blooming Days Flower Shop, toll free, at 1-800-330-3297. 1-800-330-3297. Local, 813-971-5947. 813-971-5947. You can reach them on the web at www.bloomingdays.com. You're tired of the cold? You're tired of the taxes? It's time to move to Florida. And our friend Gary Knight at New Homes of Tampa Bay is the perfect person to help you. You can just give Gary a call at 813-770-9452, or you can go to the website to look for your brand new home at www.newhomestpa.com. Move to Florida. It's about time. Information is crucial when you're looking to purchase a new home. With so many choices of communities and options, choosing the right one for you and your family can be a daunting task. That's why you need to go to New Homes of Tampa Bay right now, www.newhomestpa.com, and get the information you need. Learn how people save thousands of dollars when purchasing new homes. Buy like the pros. New Homes Tampa Bay, www.newhomestpa.com. Listen, this show would not be possible if it weren't for our affiliate partners. If it wasn't for people like Gary Knight at New Homes Tampa Bay. If it weren't like Kevin Batts at theredriverchronicle.com. So, it is getting near the end of the month, so let's talk about the Red River Chronicle. The Red River Chronicle is a website that is full of fantastic conservative articles, conservative educational tools. I think that's the coolest thing. Spent 15 years in teaching in the public school system, and you know what? These educational tools are something that you can use yourself, that you can use in a classroom setting, that you can direct students to, sort of on the sly. Because it's, frankly, I think the battle is just like that. If you're working in the public school system, and you're in a social studies classroom, I use social studies because it's the easiest transition. And a student comes to you and says, "Where do I learn more about conservatives?" Well, the very first place you should send them is not townhall.com, is not the Rush Limbaugh site, or even the Willie Lawson show necessarily. You need to send them right to the redriverchronicle.com. Articles written in a scholarly way, primarily information about Oklahoma and Texas, but from a very conservative standpoint. And you know what? Kevin Batts is black, so that helps your students because that throws away and destroys the left's picture of who's supposed to be conservative. So you can also, on that site, that student will have access to Hillsdale College lectures, which I think are invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. And there's also an app that they can purchase. I did. It's all of 99 cents. I purchased it. It keeps you up to date with what's going on the redriverchronicle.com website. That's the redriverchronicle.com website. The finest in conservative information and education. Well, it is, it's about to be tomorrow, but we appreciate, in about 23 minutes, it's going to be tomorrow. I think everybody at my house is going to be home most of the day tomorrow. My wife was waiting on an email to see if they were actually going to be open where she's working tomorrow, and maybe not. I think she fell asleep and she doesn't know. She'll wake up tonight and check her email, and then we'll know who's going to be home. My son's going to be home because all the schools in Hillsborough County and the surrounding counties are going to be closed tomorrow due to the piss poor, sad little tropical storm that's coming through the area right now. I still haven't seen a leaf move. I put up a plastic placard over the window of the Space Power Production mobile studios that I call my car. And it's not taped down, or it's just sort of leaned up against the open part of the window that is still that about a quarter of the way up because it's stuck, and it's been standing there leaned up against that all day and hasn't fallen out, hasn't been blown out by the wind. There's been no wind, and that tells me that the storm is not going to be anything more than a rain event. It's not going to be a storm that does much damage other than some flooding in areas that are already flooded. So, we'll all be home tomorrow, and so we'll see how much I get done here. Hopefully, I'll be able to get some writing done and get some promoting done. I said before the break, I have to bring you some C.L. Bryant, because C.L. Bryant is the force behind the movie, and if you haven't seen the movie, shame on you. Go to Netflix and see it. The movie Runaway Slave. because the movie Runaway Slave sort of tells the story, kind of tells the story, and I don't know about you, but sometimes other people can explain my journey better than I can explain my own journey sometimes. C.L. Bryant explaining how it's a normal thing for black people to be conservative. He says it so much more eloquently than I do because maybe he's a preacher. Maybe the Reverend C.L. Bryant is because he's a black preacher. He's better at it. Now, C.L. was also he was the president of the Grapevine, Texas NAACP. So he's been on the inside. He understands what all that's about. He has an intimate understanding of what that's about. And I think that C.L. Bryant is one of the major black conservative voices in America. And if you haven't, and again, if you're listening to this show somehow and you haven't heard of C.L. Bryant, that's why we're doing Black Media, the Pushback Media Group. So now you can say that you have. We're going to go ahead and make sure we click on all the right buttons. We got that, and then we got that, and off we go.
One of the great leaders of the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, once gave a great speech known as I Have a Dream. But do you think Martin Luther King actually had the dream of the country that we have today? Someone who knows this and who's actually experienced all sorts of controversy at the same time, all sorts of love and acceptance. C.L. Bryant, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Scotty. Glad to be with you today.
You know, here's my question for you. Do you ever get offended when people ask you about the color of your skin, whether they're on either side of the aisle?
It is amazing how people can't hardly believe that a black man would be a conservative and a Republican. But you know what? It's actually the normal thing for black people to be.
Well, and it comes from your history also. I mean, I think most would realize if people understood that they really are Republicans, they really are conservative in their values. Good family values go across the range regardless of the color of your skin. Do you agree?
Oh, it's absolutely right. And you know what, Scotty? From the inception of the Republican Party, they have always been the champions of civil rights and for people enjoying the blessings of liberty in this country. And so when we hear the hypocritical opinions of those on the left saying that we're out of place, I think we should really examine who the true sellouts are. Well,
this just leads straight into the foundation, the premises for a movie that you just were in, along with several other great leaders, Runaway Slave. Tell me a little bit about this movie.
Runaway Slave captures the idea that it takes the courage of a runaway slave to actually secure liberty. When you say to the master, I don't want your food, I don't want your housing, I don't want you to clothe me, I want to be free for myself, and I'm willing to run away from this system to a place where I really don't know exists. They weren't guaranteed that they'd ever get to slavery. And the same idea was in the hearts and minds of the founding fathers, the Pilgrims, who landed on Plymouth Rock. They didn't know that they would survive through the first winter. That is in the DNA of every true American, the thirst for freedom.
I like to call it brainwashing that the Democratic Party has done to all Democrats within their party. But how do we counter that amongst friends and family, whether white or black? But how do we really reach to them to what they need to hear to learn what the true party they belong to?
Scotty, we as conservatives have always been on the defensive, putting our hands up, blocking the blows. But now it is time for us to go on the offensive. We have the truth. We know we have the truth, and we need to continue to trumpet the truth. Regardless of what they say, we cannot back down now. The stakes are too high.
Well, the truth shall set you free. And thank you. Where can people go find out more about Runaway Slave?
RunawaySlaveMovie.com, RunawaySlaveMovie.com, or just Google C.L. Bryant.
Fantastic. Well, definitely make sure that you go and check out the movie and keep up the spirit, keep up the truth, and we will make sure that we win in November. Thank you, CL.
Thank you, Scott.
Wow. As I was watching that clip was taken at the the Republican National Convention in 2012 when it was in Tampa. And it was funny. He did that interview with TPNN just before he came by and did an interview with me. So the clip sort of, it was kind of cool. The clip sort of took me back to a couple years ago when the Willie Lawson show on Blog Talk Radio was at the at the Republican National Convention here in Tampa, Florida. So you know what, we've done a lot, man. We have done a lot with not many resources, but we have managed to do a lot, and I praise God for it. So I'm excited about. So I'm really excited about what we can do with Fightback Media Group. Now, if you're listening to the show and you want to help us, because the next thing we have to do, we have to get a dedicated website. Right now, the Fightback Media Group website and material is sort of hanging out and waifing on the WillieLawson.com website, and that can't be it. It's got to be a dedicated website that is the Fightback Media Group website. So if you want to help us get that done, you can go to www.gofundme.com/fightbackpromo, and I'm sure someone's going to put that in the chat room as soon as I get off this page. I'm not quite sure what that is. I've got a big white blob. I think I'm being hacked. Oh no, yeah, I see what that is. Yeah, so you can go to www, of course, www won't show up in the chat room, .gofundme.com/fightback. I'll get it. Promo. Maybe I can't. Maybe there you go. Let's see if I can. Oh, that's wrong. Good God. What I can't do is type and talk at the same time. So give me a second. See, there you go. Told you. One of the things I have not been able to master in all the time I've done this, in the 2,000 plus shows that I've done, is talk and type at the same time. You would think in 2,000 shows I would be able to do that. I've got over 1,600 shows under my belt on Blog Talk Radio. I've done a couple of hundred shows here on my time on Spreaker, both here in the studio and on the Spreaker app. And in other places, as well as doing some terrestrial radio here in town. Listen, if you're thinking about doing something like this and raising your platform, let me give you a little bit of advice. Do not get suckered in. Do not get suckered into doing any radio where you have to pay. Don't do any radio where you have to pay, where you pay them to be on the air. They'll have you on some weekend part, some weekend day part, and then you pay them, and they tell you that you can raise some money for your show through advertising. No, you can't. You don't have the experience to do that. You're not a salesperson, and you're not going to get enough saturation in an hour a week to make anybody at all pay you enough money to pay for your show. So if somebody comes to you with one of those sort of deals, don't do it. Don't freaking do it. Just don't. All right. Again, this is what the Fightback Media Group is all about. This is what this project is all about. Making sure people that we know can have more of a platform, because it is so important that we have a platform. It's tough. People are wondering, well, how do I get heard? Well, you know what? We've got to help each other. We have got to help each other be heard. Another person that I'm going to play some audio from is Kevin McGarry. Kevin McGarry is somebody that actually is going to be on the show Friday at noon, I believe. Yes, Friday at noon. Tomorrow, we are doing a show. We're doing a show on Blog Talk Radio. And we're going to have my friend Kevin Batts from the RedRiverChronicle.com on at noon. So you want to make sure that you're up, that you're out of bed, and that you're listening to that show at noon in about 12 hours. And hopefully we'll get Kevin McGarry on. Hopefully we'll get Kevin on Friday. But I want you to hear from Kevin first. Let me see if I can press the right buttons. Yes, I can. Thank you for being so supportive, Paul. Let's see here. Go ahead and press the button. You can hear Kevin McGarry as he talks about Clinton coalitions in her speech today. Let's see. I can press the button, and there we go.
All right, it's Kevin again, and we're going to continue the conversation about racist Clintons. One of the what really caught my attention today was Clinton was trying to, I guess, rebuke Trump about relationships and how to build partnerships. And she says relationships are built over time, very slow, very methodically. It takes a lot of hard work. Well, I think in fairness, she should know. Her relationships have lasted for decades. So, Orville Fulbus, William Fulbright, Robert Byrd, and Margaret Sanger, all great friends of hers, all professed KKK supporters or members, avid KKK supporters and members, and she built those relationships slowly but surely over time, very strongly. And to this day, she will not renounce or denounce any of those relationships. Stands behind them wholeheartedly. And those were her mentor friends, people that she esteemed highly, still esteems highly as great people. So she should know. Relationships are built slowly but surely over time. This is also a woman who has built some rather nefarious relationships. Yeah, so, we have other organizations, like, for instance, at the State Department, she built some relationships with rogue regimes that are pretty popular for some of their atrocities towards women, homosexuals, Jews, and other types of demographics. And she has great relationships with them. Took their money, gave them access, and by virtue of her unsecured server, gave them secrets. These are the types of relationships that she deems highly appropriate, and the type that, over time, you're supposed to sort of work them and massage them. So Hillary Clinton can probably teach us a thing or two about relationships. Though she has relationships with private racist golf organizations, golf clubs, a private golf club that is whites only. Her and Bill were a part of. They built a relationship with that club too, and over time, still no renouncing of that relationship. Again, the point is, this woman knows what she's talking about. Those relationships with her friends and allies that actually mean harm to the United States are important to her. Those relationships with her friends and allies that actually represent harm to the black community, they're important to her. Those relationships that are her friends and allies that participate in the purposeful segregation of black and white, like in this private, white-only golf organization that she and Bill were a part of, I guess that's important to her. So listen to her, Mr. Trump. She knows about relationships. She protects her relationships. She knows how to hold on to those relationships. Margaret Sanger, as she said, let's get rid of all of the undesirables, the black and Latinos. She still holds dearly to everything that Margaret Sanger said and did via her organizations. Completely support them to this very day. So today is Hillary Clinton Day for telling us how to build relationships, irrespective of how dangerous they are. Bravo, Hillary Clinton. You hit the mark today, indeed.
And that's Kevin McGarry. Another voice. One of the, and I'm sorry, I'm really into this, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. my first interview with anybody of any substance was with Andrew Breitbart. And Andrew Breitbart was about more voices, bringing people along, taking voices and being a amplifier for their voices. They've got something to say. You know what? Same thing with Sonny Johnson. Same thing with Brandon Darby. As you'll hear, we're going to play that interview in total. And by the time it'll be done, it's going to be done, I will probably be asleep. But I'm going to play it anyway. So if you want to stick around and hear it, if you want to pause it and you want to pause the show and hear the rest of it later, you can. But we're going to take up all our 3 hours of this broadcast today. So that's how that's going to roll. But you know, Andrew Breitbart was about more voices, not necessarily his own, although his own voice was amazing and life changing. But it was about bringing other people along, and I really believe that is a proper approach. Listen, before we stop at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to play, because Joe is still out there. I'm going to play and I'm going to embarrass him a little bit. He came to the show today, and I learned that this was a voice that Joe White from Houston, Texas, has a voice, and has something to say. And so we're going to go ahead and play again Joe's rant that he did today on Spreaker. He has something to say, and you need to hear it.
Dirty little secret in the black community that I'm going to talk about today. That secret is for if you're educated, if you speak the English language correctly, or if your parents have they don't even have to be rich. If they're able to pay their bills and not leech off the government, you're somehow not black. Or you're not black enough because you didn't go to jail, so you don't have street credit. Only black people are stupid enough to put that idea in another black person's head. You have to go to jail to get street credit from us. Seriously? Come on, man. Like, aren't we smarter than that? I would hope so. Come on, black people. We should all be educated and well off. And there's no reason for 58% of our community to be on food stamps. I don't understand. Go buy your own food. Government leeches. That's what the Democrat Party has created in the black community. Government leeches and leeches, period. Because leeches will say to a black man like Michael Jordan, why don't you reinvest some of your money into the community? Man, white people don't ask Bill Gates, why doesn't he reinvest in the white community? Because America is a community in itself. We don't have to feel obligated to giving some of our hard-earned money to black people that ridiculed us growing up. Now don't give me that. You know you ridiculed us growing up. You talk like a white boy. You look white. Oh, why you going to school? Why you doing homework? Why you trying to be smart like white people? Oh, black people that's stupid. I'm really beginning to think so. And it's very unfortunate for us. We ain't gonna end nowhere but in the ditch. Like the Bible say, blind lead the blind, they all fall in the ditch. You got blind leaders called Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, who they do what they do for money, and you niggas ain't smart enough to see that. And the people like me who aren't out here for money, we trying to wake your ass up, we get called Uncle Tom. Oh Lord. Oh well, other than that, that's my rant for the day. I'm pretty sure a lot of you black people gonna have something to say about it, but if I'm wrong in anything I said, challenge me.
And that's what you'll find out, is that you may not like what gets said, but if you can't tell me it's not true. You can't tell me I'm not right. You can't tell me that what Joe is saying isn't correct. You may or may not like the delivery, But I don't care if you like the delivery or not. It doesn't make any difference to me. The fact of the matter is that what Joe is saying is true, that we've got more people, we've got more black people on public assistance and on food stamps now than any other time in our history, under the direction and under the administration of a black president that I've said before was supposed to be Black Jesus. How is that possible? And why are we not holding these people accountable? Why are we not holding the people accountable who are in charge, who have the political titles, not just political titles? There are other leaders in the community. Why are we not holding them accountable for the condition of the communities that we live in? And that's one of the things that we've got to turn from when we're talking about the urban community, and we'll talk about that. We're going to take a short break, not quite as long as the others. We're going to take a short break to sort of ring the registers for those people who help us on a monthly basis. If you want to be one that helps us, all you have to do is send me an email at WLS860@gmail.com. That's WLS860@gmail.com if you want to help out too. We'll be right back. Listen, this show would not be possible if it weren't for our affiliate partners. If it wasn't for people like Gary Knight at New Homes Tampa Bay, if it weren't like Kevin Batts at theredriverchronicle.com. So it is getting near the end of the month, so let's talk about the Red River Chronicle. The Red River Chronicle is a website that is full of fantastic conservative articles, conservative educational tools. I think that's the coolest thing. Spent 15 years in teaching in the public school system, and you know what? These educational tools are something that you can use yourself, that you can use in a classroom setting, that you can direct students to, sort of on the sly. Because it's, frankly, I think the battle is just like that. If you're working in the public school system, and you're in a social studies classroom, I use social studies because it's the easiest transition. And a student comes to you and says, "Where do I learn more about conservatives?" Well, the very first place you should send them is not townhall.com, is not the Rush Limbaugh site, or even the Willie Lawson show necessarily. You need to send them right to the redriverchronicle.com. Articles written in a scholarly way, primarily information about Oklahoma and Texas, but from a very conservative standpoint. And you know what? Kevin Batts is black, so that helps your students because that throws away and destroys the left's picture of who's supposed to be conservative. So you can also, on that site, that student will have access to Hillsdale College lectures, which I think are invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. And there's also an app that they can purchase. I did. It's all of 99 cents. I purchased it. It keeps you up to date with what's going on the redriverchronicle.com website. That's the redriverchronicle.com website. The finest in conservative information and education. Information is crucial when you're looking to purchase a new home. With so many choices of communities and options, choosing the right one for you and your family can be a daunting task. That's why you need to go to New Homes of Tampa Bay right now, www.newhomestpa.com, and get the information you need. Learn how people save thousands of dollars when purchasing new homes. Buy like the pros. New Homes Tampa Bay, www.newhomestpa.com. All right, we're back with more of more of Fightback here on Spreaker. Thank you ever so much for listening and for hanging in there late. It's now tomorrow. Welcome to tomorrow. It's now Thursday, and we are approaching the home stretch. I want to talk a little bit about a different concept. I talked a little bit about this today, and I want yesterday. Now I want to talk about it tonight too. Because I think it's important. I think it's probably, as we are building Fightback Media Group and getting these messages in. We started the show today with talking about Donald Trump's message. It wasn't in Wisconsin, it was in Michigan. His appeal to black voters. But you know what? That appeal should, by my opinion, should have been made in Detroit, should have been made in Tampa. Should have been made somewhere where he could have been in front of the people who needed to hear it. I mean, asking for the African American vote, asking for the black vote, with a primarily Caucasian crowd. I appreciate anybody asking for my vote, but I want it to be more effective. That's what I want. I want it to be more effective, and I think it might have been more effective on BET. I think it might have been more effective if it had been in front of the NAACP, although I don't like the NAACP. However, we're talking about effectiveness of messaging. I think that's important. Trump's pretty good at that. He's a business guy. He knows that you've got to get your product in front of the people who you want to buy it. You know, you can't sell. I mean, there's no reason to try to sell, $1 million condominium to somebody who's on food stamps. There's no reason to get your product in front of them. But the people who already have $1 million condo somewhere in the world, you want to get your product his product in front of them. And I think that he understands that. I think he understands the marketing edge, the marketing piece of what he's trying to do a lot better than the Republican Party does. The Republican Party doesn't have any earthly idea. I mean, what's the joke? That Reince Priebus couldn't sell ice water to Eskimos. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't do it. So they don't really get it. I think that Trump and a lot of the people around Trump understand marketing, and although they made that speech where they made it, it was the timing of it. But I don't want to talk about outreach. A lot of people are saying, well, the GLP needs to come up with some sort of outreach program. I said this earlier today, or yesterday, I guess. One of the best things I ever heard from Michael Steele, who was the chair of the Republican Party when he was in Tampa doing the 2010 elections, I guess, was that he had disallowed the term outreach in the office in D.C. And I thought, well, that's fabulous because outreach, political outreach, especially Republican outreach, was a snipe hunt. It never existed. You couldn't find it. And then when Reince Priebus took over in 2011, I guess, took over and hired Rafi Williams as the assistant director of African American communications. Now, why he hired Rafi Williams first as the assistant deputy? Who hires the assistant first? Anyway, bullcrap move. And then he hired, and then they hire Amani Council as the deputy director of communications for African American communications, outreach directors primarily, and had published the Growth and Opportunity project that addressed basically, frankly, all the things that a lot of us had been saying up until that point, except that they weren't going to do any of it. Except that they wrote it down, but nobody was going to do anything about it. As a matter of fact, a lot of GOPers, I'm talking not about leaders, I'm talking about people who are out, constituents, people who are amongst the great unwashed, were out downing the project, the Growth and Opportunity project as pandering. when it was just marketing. So we're pretty sure that the $10 million they had set aside, not much of it was going to be, not much or any of it was going to be used. Reince Priebus did go on a listening tour, so some of the money was used for that, and of course you had to pay the salary of Juan Williams' kid, Rafi Williams, and of course Amani Council got some salary, and that was pretty much what ate up all the money. There weren't any programs. Nothing happened in the community. Nothing happened in the hood. There was no GOP thing in Detroit. There was no GOP thing in Ferguson, Missouri. There was no GOP thing in Oakland, California. There was no GOP thing in Miami, Florida, or Tampa, Florida, or Jacksonville, Florida, or Atlanta, Georgia. There was no GOP thing that happened that got people's attention. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Because outreach doesn't work. Throwing a party in a park, putting up your big GOP banner, blowing up a big inflatable elephant, cooking some hot dogs, and trying to find every black Republican within a 85-mile radius to come and smile and talk to people who are throwing the frisbee or playing football or softball, who walk by, what your little tent there, and calling that outreach is ridiculous. Because it's not effective. It's stupid. The only thing that really works, that has a shot of working, is something that God gave me 5 or 6 years ago called Community Infusion. Community Infusion is completely different from outreach. Community Infusion is a plan by which that you get into those communities. That you join clubs and you join boards and that you get into charities that work in the communities that you are trying to reach. Because we have to build relationships first. The best salespeople build relationships first. When you've gone into a store and you've bought something big, when I say big, something that it was important. The only way to make it possible was to rip into your wallet and take out a credit card to buy. You bought it from a salesperson that, quite frankly, you liked. You didn't buy it from the salesperson you thought was an asshole. You bought it from the salesperson that you liked. Why? Because they have been able to build a relationship with you. If it took them a month or if it took them 15 minutes, they were able to build a relationship with you that you liked them. You liked them so much that you trusted them that buying this new stereo was exactly what you needed to do. That they were actually helping you out. Now they say, hey, listen, have you seen this stereo? Have you seen this amplifier? Have you seen these speakers? This will make your life great. This will make watching movies in your house the best thing you've ever done. This will mean when you're watching Netflix, when you're watching Runaway Slave by C.L. Bryant, it'll be the best movie watching experience you could experience. I'm helping you out. And then you reach into your wallet, grab your credit card, and then you pay them money. That's the power of building relationships, the power of infusion. That person's infused his way into your being, and now you trust them. Now he may be doing it strictly for nefarious reasons because he's trying to get your credit card out of your wallet. Because if he can get your credit card out of your wallet, he can put money in his pocket. But the concept is a lot the same. We have got to get into these communities in a real way so we can be trusted, so conservative views can be heard and can be trusted, listened to, and adopted eventually. This is more important than some sort of campaign program you do from election cycle to election cycle. No, this is long-term investment in the people that you say you care about, in your neighbors that you say you care about, in your fellow citizens in your community, in your city, in your town, in your county that you say you care about. This is as much to do with making sure that you're not a hypocrite as anything else. The adopting of Little League baseball teams, Little League football teams. This is making sure kids get to camp. This is making sure that putting on yard sales. This is painting rec buildings. This is all the above. Showing up in communities that need help and helping. Not taking over, but helping. An understanding that you're going to be looked at sort of cross-eyed right away because no one trusts you. You're the Republican. Nobody trusts you. And why should they trust you? You haven't been there. Infusing our way into their community. Somebody said infiltrate. Well, that's sort of a nefarious word, and I don't want to use infiltrate, but you got to be there. We've got to be there. We've got to be on boards. We've got to be serving in the communities that we say we care about. This idea of this GOP idea of showing up right before the election with a Martin Luther King was a Republican banner and hoping to get people to vote for you, vote for your candidate, support your cause 72 hours before the election is nonsense. That crap doesn't work. It's silly. It's ridiculous. It's insulting. One of the biggest questions I get asked when people find out that I'm a Republican and I'm running for office and I'm doing something, they always ask, where you guys been? Where are your friends? Where are the rest of the Republicans? How come we never see them? How come we never see them? And I'll tell you what, I don't usually have I don't have a good answer, other than I'm here now, and my wife and I have decided that that's what we do. That's why we live in the community that we live in. It was the house that we could afford, and it was the community that we love. And so both of us are very, very involved in our community. My wife has served on the mayor's African American Council. She's such a rock star. Good God, she is such a rock star. She has served on the board of the East Tampa, the Heart of East Tampa Front Porch. And I serve on the very same board of the Heart of East Tampa Front Porch. What we do is we make sure that kids have job training. Job training and internship programs that really, really matter. You can't have an internship program while working at McDonald's. An internship program that take kids that work for financial institutions, that work for attorneys, that work for newspapers. We do that. We make sure that some of the health concerns of our community are met by making sure that black people understand that there are medical trials that they can participate in. That's what Front Porch does. We also serve on the East Tampa Revitalization Partnership. So we are kept abreast of those things that are happening to revitalize our own community, making sure that gentrification, quite frankly, isn't the call of the day, pushing poor people out of their homes and rewarding them with mortgages. That revitalization actually is benefiting the people who actually live in these communities. And I'm running for the CRA, which is the advisory council for East Tampa. My wife has already served on CRA. I'm currently running for to be on CRA, which is the advising committee for East Tampa Revitalization Partnership. It's important that we stay involved. People both know that my wife and I are both Republicans. They know that. I've run for office here. I ran for county commission in my district. This is my second time. We didn't qualify either time, but I will probably run again. I don't know if I'm going to run in this district or not, but that's yet to be seen. Whatever God has. But everybody knows. Is everybody happy with it? Well, probably not, but I don't care. But what they can't deny is that we serve. They can't deny is that we get our hands dirty, that we roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty, that they can count on us at the East Tampa Relay for Life. That they can count on us. That they know that we are going to be there. We're going to be there individually, and more importantly, we're going to be there as a team. Those are the things that are important. That's infusion. So when people are having discussions about this or that that's going on in the community, that's going on in the hood, that a conservative viewpoint, a conservative mindset is actually in the room. That a Republican or a conservative mindset is actually in the room and actually is getting getting some voice. You may be the only voice. But if you weren't there, there wouldn't be any voice. There wouldn't be any thought of all the things that you believe in, that you know that need to be injected in your community. If you weren't there, there'd be nobody saying it. So it's important that you're there. It's important that we're all there. Infusion takes a while. It takes a lot of commitment. Again, a lot of times it says a lot more about you than it does about anybody else. Are you really committed? Are you really committed? Do you actually give a damn about the people that you say you do? It's easy to say, I love my neighbor, I love my brother. It's easy to say that. But when you actually have to do something about it, that's when we'll know. So I'd like to get another plug in for Community Infusion. I have to write a book on Community Infusion. I've never written a book. I had trouble writing a paragraph. It's because my literary talents are not fabulous. And frankly, I get bored. Writing bores me. So a lot of the blog you'll see very short articles, hardly anything very long, hardly anything over 500 words. So if you want to help out with the Fightback Media Group and you're a writer, you're somebody who likes to write, you're hired. The salary is $0. The hours are long. Your boss is a dick. That would be me. It's like working for Ali Akbar, but without the money. You ain't getting paid. There'll be no money. You will not be getting paid because there ain't no money. I believe there will be some reward and maybe some financial reward in the future. But I got to write this book. So if you want to help me write this book, you're hired. There you go. All right, listen. I want to, and I wanted to make sure that I do this because I think it's a great interview and somebody else that you need to hear about. And I'm so glad I was able to do this interview after Right Online with Brandon Darby. That I want you to hear that I want you to hear about it because a lot of people don't know who Brandon Darby is. They don't know what he's about. Brandon Darby is the editor of Breitbart, Texas, and like I keep saying to you, it was Andrew Breitbart that planted this seed for Fightback Media Group in me. He never saw it come to fruition. Again, it didn't. It just started. My God, it just started 2 weeks ago, and Andrew's been dead a while. When I think about it, it makes me sad because you want to. I guess like a parent, it's like your parents. You wish that they could have seen you grow up. You wish they could have seen you do well. I wish that Andrew could have seen us grow up. I wish he could have seen us do well and start this. That we want to do what he did. We want to hold other people up. We want to put other folks out there. And when you listen to the interview with Brandon, that's exactly what Andrew did for Brandon Darby. All right, we're gonna play a couple more spots, and then we're gonna play the interview with Brandon Darby that we did a couple years ago. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for being here on Fightback, the flagship show of the Fightback Media Group. Again, thank you for coming. Thanks for helping out. You can go to www.gofundme.com, Fightback promo, if you want to help out whatever you can help out with. There's no minimum. There's no maximum either. everything I'd appreciate, anything I'd appreciate, because our first thing is to get the website is to get a website up. And if you're good at that stuff, once we get the website, once we get the domain and the hosting, if you're good at building websites, you're hired. Again, there ain't no pay, there ain't no money. It's just the love and the joy of doing a good thing. That's what you're going to get paid from. All right, listen, I'm going to play a couple of spots from my friends. The first one is from my friend Christine from Bloomingdale's Flower Shop here in town. And the second one, a short one, from my friend Gary Knight at newhomestpa.com. First, my friend Christine at bloomingdays.com. It's all the rage to call and order flowers from 1-800-whatever or go online and order them from some nameless, faceless person on the other end. I'm saying you should do something different. You should, before doing that, call my friends at Bloomingdale's Flower Shop, located right here in Tampa, Florida, at 11618 North Florida Avenue, 33612. Christine and her staff don't look at just the order. They look at the customer. They look at your occasion. They consider the entire person, the entire occasion, before making decisions about design and price. You're more than just a customer. You're a friend. Call our friends at Bloomingdale's Flower Shop, toll free at 1-800-330-3297. 1-800-330-3297. Local 813-971-5947. 813-971-5947. You can reach them on the web at www.bloomingdays.com. You're tired of the cold? You're tired of the taxes? It's time to move to Florida. And our friend Gary Knight at New Homes of Tampa Bay is the perfect person to help you. You can just give Gary a call at 813-770-9452, or you can go to the website to look for your brand new home at www.newhomestpa.com. Move to Florida. It's about time.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here on Blog Talk Radio. This is a show that changes your mind so you can change your community for the better. All right, welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here on Blog Talk Radio. We appreciate it. We are in the Space Pop Production headquarters. We're not in the studios today, but it's a very, very special show. It's a show that my guest today is Brandon Darby. Brandon Darby is known by a lot of names, or a lot of titles. But for me, Brandon is the editor of Breitbart, Texas, and is truly a voice for the conservative movement, and somebody who understands progressivism in a visceral way, somebody who really gets what they're seeing here in this country, and is able to define and delineate what most people see, as opposed to the things that are really going on. He's had some experience behind the scenes in the progressive movement, so there's probably no better voice in America than Brandon Darby about the subculture and the evilness of what's actually happening on the liberal side of the aisle. I am honored to have him as my guest, and he'll be on in just a few minutes. This is going to be quite the week. We have Brandon Darby today. We have Robert Stacy McCain of the other McCain on tomorrow, Tuesday, and Sonny Johnson on Wednesday. So it's going to be quite a ride for the next few days. So you know what? Hang in there with us. Tell your friends. because the idea is the more people, the more people who know, the more people who can listen, the more people who can react, the more people who can use this information to their benefit, the more communities we can change, and the sooner we can do that, because that's what this is all about. It's about changing your community, and the quicker we can do that, the better off we will all be, especially as the 2016 election cycle is bearing down on us at a high rate of speed. So you know what? It is going to be really, really important. It's going to be a great show. And if you're tuning in, Brandon's not here yet, but he's going to be here in a little bit. So tell your friends, tweet them, Snapchat, pin, tweet, whatever you have to do, Facebook, post, whatever you have to do. Let people know that Brandon Darby is going to be on the Willie Lawson Show in just a few minutes, and you don't want to miss Brandon's story because this is a story that is just amazing. You know what? Every now and again, I get to meet somebody who I think of as great and important and amazing, and I got to meet Brandon at Right Online last Saturday. So. We actually met, shook hands for the first time, and I just think that this young man is an amazing person. So listen, we're going to take a little break. We're going to take our break early so we can have some time to go forward, and we're going to play a few spots beforehand to get them out of the way, so we'll have plenty of time to listen to Brandon and talk to him. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the Willie Lawson Show here on Blog Talk Radio. We'll be right back.
You have discriminating taste and an eye for the impressive. You need to surround yourself with not only beauty, but quality. That is why you are looking for a new construction home for you and your family. Let the experts at New Homes of Tampa Bay guide you to and through your new home purchase process. With access to hundreds of model homes throughout the Tampa Bay area, New Homes of Tampa Bay is sure to find that perfect match of budget and beauty you are looking for. New Homes of Tampa Bay can save you thousands of dollars while costing you nothing. Call us today before you start your new home search. New Homes of Tampa Bay at 813-770-9452 and at www.newhomestpa.com.
Only in the forest can you see this. And this. And this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
I didn't know it could do that!
Because one trip to the forest can spark a world of difference.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go, like hiking, canoeing, fishing, or camping. Or create your own adventure with family and friends, and you might just see this. Your moment's out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
It's 6:42 p.m. Time for Steve Plotto and his son Dylan to do the dishes. They talk about everything from the yuckiness of girls to the awesomeness of his soccer team. Sometimes they don't talk at all. Then, hey, the dreaded splash fight. It's Dad O'Clock, and it's the best time of the day because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, parents of children with asthma, here's another hit from the Breathe Easies.
Come on and clean up the mold. Clean up the mold. Mold can trigger asthma in kids young and old. Come on and clean up the mold. Clean up the mold in your house.
This song may be fun, but childhood asthma is not. Preventing asthma attacks can be as simple as cleaning up the mold and mildew in your house. For more Breathe Easy tips to help stop asthma attacks, go to noattacks.org, brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Getting your child home safely
Tap your views together 3 times.
is just a click away.
There's no place like home.
But making sure your child is in the right seat is just one of the steps down the road to safer travel.
I don't know how it works.
Find the right seat for your little one's age and size. There's no better way to get home safely. Know for sure that your child is in the right seat.
How can I ever thank you enough?
Get all the facts at safercar.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hey, parents of children with asthma, here's the Breathe Easies with another one of your favorite hits.
Don't smoke in the house. Don't smoke in the house. Don't smoke around the kids in the house. Don't smoke in the car. Don't smoke in the house. Don't break my heart with your secondhand smoke in the kids. It can trigger the asthma.
Preventing asthma attacks can be as simple as making your home and car smoke-free zones. For more Breathe Easy tips to help stop asthma attacks, go to noattacks.org or just keep listening.
Vacuum up the floor. Vacuum up the floor. Vacuum up the floor. The asthma trigger is no more. You gotta vacuum up the furniture and vacuum in the cracks because the dander and the dust can give kids asthma attacks.
Simple steps can help your kids breathe easier. Vacuum up the floor to keep your house free of dust, dander, and dust mites. For more Breathe Easy tips to help stop asthma attacks, go to noattacks.org. Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here on Blog Talk Radio. This is a show that changes your mind so you can change your community for the better. All right, we're back. Thanks so much for coming today. We are blessed with a fantastic guest. Somebody who is going to change your mind about some things. I think. You know what? I did some research in the past few days about our guest, and my mind was changed. You know what? My whole experience last week at Right Online was a life-changing experience in the sense that when you talk to people who have been there, people who are in the trenches, people who see what you can't see from where you are, and they show it in such a bright, brilliant, clear light, it changes you. And I am changed. So without further ado, I had to bring on my guest, the editor of Breitbart Texas, Brandon Darby. Brandon, how are you this glorious afternoon?
Hey, I'm doing great. Just having fun, you know, running a news site and taking care of all the things that need to be taken care of. You know, I'm a single dad too, so I my daughter lives with me, and so each school morning I get up early and I do as much work as possible, and then at a certain time. Man, I try to do hair. It's interesting, but it's kind of funny because I'll take her to school and sometimes the teachers will go, "Oh, how cute, you did her hair," and I'm like, "Thanks," you know. So waffles or whatever, and then take care of business and get her to school, and then get back to the get back to work.
I understand. You know, with most single dads, it is the hair that makes the difference. That's how you know that you've made it. When the teachers go, "Oh, that is so cute," and you go,
"No," but they weren't saying it like that. They weren't saying that is so cute. They were saying, "Oh, how cute, you did her hair." And then when I pick her up from school, her hair is different because the teachers fixed it for her. So I watch YouTube videos and all kinds of stuff trying to figure out like how to do your daughter's hair, and it just doesn't work out for me.
It's a long road, man. I feel you. Listen, you know what? We got a chance to meet on Saturday at Right Online in D.C., and I tell you what, the panel that you were on, kind of a life-changing panel for me. I'm gonna tell you, because our friend Sonny Johnson,
who was second speaker on the panel. James, this is a panel, y'all. This would have been worth the whole weekend. It was James O'Keefe, it was Sonny Johnson, and Brandon Darby in the same room. I'm telling you, if that's not a life-changing experience, then you're not looking for a life-changing experience. What I learned and how you touched me was part of your story that I've since learned more about is how you came to where you are. Because a lot of people who, if you put in Brandon Darby in the Google, what you'll find is FBI informant. Well, that doesn't tell nearly the whole story. It's not even close to the whole story. There's a lot.
Not at all.
There's a lot that led up to that particular, a crisis of conscience, I guess I could say, which is probably would that be correct?
That's correct. It's just a lot of experiences, but I had a lot of experiences that a lot of people don't get to have, and so, and then people say, well, you changed your ideology completely from left to right, and I'm like, not really. If you look at what I was saying in my interviews and in my speeches when I was on the left, I was really kind of saying the same thing I say now, for the most part, especially when it comes to how people in the world are helped, how communities who are suffering, how they are best brought out of that suffering. I really said the same things I say now. The thing is that I had a false understanding. I fell into the false notion, the false narrative that because I was so radical about helping other people, that meant that I was on the left. That meant that, the other people who were so radical about helping were on the left as well. That's the false narrative that most people believe. They say, well, if you care about others, you vote left, you vote Democrat, and if you want to help rich white people, you vote Republican or you vote right. And I fell into that narrative. But over the course of life, and especially being starting a relief project in the Ninth Ward and the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans, which is, as you probably know, it's a good, very high percentage. It's a black population. It's very few white people at the time lived in that area, and it was really controversial on the left, and I couldn't understand that. I didn't understand why it was controversial to do things the way I did things, and what I was doing just by nature, by the fact that my skin was white. And I learned a lot from those experiences in New Orleans for a good 2.5 years. I learned a lot about the traditional groups on the left who, if you go into any predominantly black community in the U.S. that is low income, because that's another misnomer. Obviously not all predominantly black neighborhoods in the U.S. are low income, but if you go into a neighborhood, you begin to see that there are certain people who are there, and they get all of the money and all of the resources for how that community is helped. There's nothing that happens in that community that person isn't somehow benefiting from. And what I found and learned was that oftentimes that person who is considered the leader in that black community, well, they might be considered the leader by a bunch of white academics or white liberals, but they're not considered the leader generally by the majority of the black residents in that neighborhood. And the people who are actually the black, who I would consider the black leadership in that neighborhood, like the grandmas on each block or some of the pastors, because they don't pump their fist in the air and talk about Malcolm X, or because they don't push for Democratic votes or any party votes, because they're not political, even though they're the ones doing the hardest work and the most to help people, they don't have any resources or assistance. So I began to realize that, and that I think that was the beginning of me, me changing my worldview to say, even though, like I said, my belief that local communities help each other better than a federal government can, and can better determine how to help their own. That's a right of center belief that I've always held. I just didn't know that it was right of center. I
understand. So you found you found the scam, because a lot of us who live in black communities, like I do, we were up on the scam a long time ago, that there are certain people who have been christened by white liberals and academia as the leaders in an area, and those are the people that, you know what, and that somebody called, and I wish I had come up with this phrase, the go-to Negroes, whenever there's something going on in the black community that people need assistance, whether of course I live in Florida, whether it's a storm, whether it's social unrest. These are the people who always seem to have the organizations that are ready to be Johnny on the spot, and those are the people who get the funding, those are the people who get the media attention, when the fact of the matter is that most people who live in the community go, these people don't even show up until there's a problem. We never see them, we never hear them, they don't even live here. And you learn, they don't even live there.
But it wasn't. But see, that was a God thing though, because it wasn't because I had some deep perception, or I mean, if I had shown up in, it's a very long story, but if I had shown up in a community and those people were there, I probably would have fell right into that too. But see, it was after Katrina, and so all of those people were gone. Acorn was gone. Those people were not there because it was filthy. There had been 20 feet of mud in some of the houses, and you had to live there without electrical power to be in, quote, solidarity with people. You had to walk door to door and talk to people, ask them what they needed, and say, hey, people are trying to take your homes, like they're trying to use eminent domain for private commercial development. You need to stay in your home. They're like, I can't stay in my home. Look at how messed up it is. And you're like, well, we're going to help you stay in your home, because if we can just get one of you to stay in your home on each block, they can't take any big swaths of land, like just get one of you to stay at your house. And so people did stay at their house. And so Acorn was gone, no Jesse Jacksons, no Al Sharptons. Everyone was gone except for residents, the average resident who would actually endure that to protect their community and help their community. The people who stayed behind, the few pastors who stayed behind to save people and make sure they had food and water, they were still there. And so when I showed up on the scene, I just started going door to door, knocking on doors and talking to people, and there just wasn't that many people. So I started putting this flyer on every door, and people started calling me as they came home, because I would see what would happen. People would drive back from Houston or wherever they were. They'd see their home, they'd cry, they'd get back in their car, and they'd leave. And I was like, wait a minute. So I started talking to them and making sure there was a note on that door for them. People started calling, and it worked. So for the first few months, I just, anybody in the community who was there trying to help, I just worked with them. And so we had this whole process and this whole system developed around these people. Well, then a few months later, when the foundation dollars and the funders started flowing, all of these groups started to come back, and they're like, well, listen, now we're back. And I'm like, so? Great. Let me know how I can help. They're like, well, you can help. But from now on, you're going to work under us, and the money's going to come through us. And then we're going to determine how it gets distributed. And I said, well, I can't do that. I'm working with all these people who have been here the whole time. And they're like, well, then we're going to say that you're a white person in leadership who comes into our community and doesn't work with black leadership. And I was like, well, then I'm going to tell people the truth. And they're like, excuse me? And I'm like, the truth is that you weren't here the whole time. These people were. We are working with black leaders, just not you, not the self-appointed black leaders who really only have a bunch of academics and white radicals behind you. And that's the truth. Like, none of these people know who you are. That's why you're asking me who's back and give me my lists. And you're asking because you don't know. You haven't been on the street with these people. You haven't been there working. You're not the one who was here living on a dirt floor and on a muddy concrete floor in a house with no electricity and no sheetrock and no plumbing, having to go to the bathroom in a bucket of sawdust because you had no other option, simply because you had to stay in the neighborhood to show you were in solidarity and to help. You weren't here. And I'm going to tell everybody you weren't here. So then all of a sudden I found myself, I'm like, here I am doing something pretty radical to help people in a predominantly black community, and here I am working really with the counsel and leadership of all of these real black leaders who are doing amazing stuff. And then the people that I've always admired, who are the black leaders, that get the media attention and get the money, are over here trying to destroy me, knowing I'm doing good. They would rather that I wasn't there doing good and everybody still suffered than me be there and them not be the ones getting the credit, the money, or the glory. And that's when I began to see a problem. That's when I began to see a problem. And so I could tell you, I could go on and on for hours about examples of things that happen, not only in the black community, but also in the predominantly white communities who were showing up to help, because people they don't understand that. Like, people say, well, why was it mostly white people who showed up to help? And I'm like, well, for socioeconomic reasons. That's why, because not a lot of people can afford to run off from their world and their life and have their parents pay the bills, and not a lot of people can afford that. And the situation we're currently in, it's not that way universally, but there probably is a larger percentage of white communities right now who have that kind of familial resources built up, right? And so that's why that was. And so I could tell you tons of stories about that, and not only just about Acorn and, like I said, some of the black leadership, but tons of stories about what I learned from the activist communities. And so over time, it just became a very natural thing that I began to realize that, hey, something's different here, like there's something different about the way I'm looking at this. Like I noticed that most of the residents in New Orleans didn't even know that there was a storm coming. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you live in such an endangered area from a hurricane that gets so many hurricanes and not pay attention to whether or not a storm is coming? And when I figured that out, and that's because people have been indoctrinated to be completely dependent on government, to be completely dependent with their well-being, what they should do, what they need to worry about, what they need to care about, all being told to them. And so when people would say, we need the federal government, and I'd say, wait a minute, we don't need more federal government. The federal government being here is why there's stuff like this in the first place. Like we need less of that. We need communities we need to take this private donations we're getting and empower communities to do stuff on their own and to be more responsible and to listen to the freaking news radio or to, like, and know that there's a storm coming, or to take some responsibility so they can be empowered and not depend on a government who didn't show up in the first place, who left them to die in the first place. And so that's where, I began to have a lot of conflict with people. But my message was still the same message I say today, which is, people help people better than a federal government can. And I believe that, there's a liberal model. It's called people don't like to acknowledge it. They'll talk about the prison industrial complex or the military, but they don't like it when you say there's a nonprofit industrial complex in this country. It is predominantly funded with conservative dollars, yet it is run by and managed by, and the processes they use are all left-of-center processes and left-of-center people. And that's why you have situations like we had in Texas, where we had in the summers of 2011 or 10, I believe it was, maybe 10, but I think it was 11, we had a massive outbreak of wildfires, and a lot of suburban communities were left homeless temporarily. And the Red Cross came in and set up shelters, and they had these people who are used to living in their own home, in their own neighborhood, with their own yard, and they had them living on cots in these big gymnasiums. And so we began to organize Tea Party groups and organize churches and talk with folks and say, hey, why don't you let the 200 local churches from this county the pastors come in and see if they click with any of the families, so the families can maybe live with another family for a while, or you know what I mean? Something where everyone's not forced to live in this big gymnasium together with no privacy. And they said, these are ours. We know what we're doing. We're the Red Cross. And I'm like, that is a left-of-center model. That is like a couple of people far away who are superior intellectually, right, that they feel they are. They can better determine how to help a local area than the leadership in the local area, right? And that's a left-of-center model. And that is what dominates the nonprofit industrial complex. You have people say conservatives don't care enough, they don't get involved enough. And it's like, well, you don't really let conservatives get involved. You say, if you want to get involved, use my liberal model that's ineffective and shut up. And so people don't get involved. And so all you're left with are left-of-center people being involved. And then when other people who have the passion in their heart to help and better the world grow up into that, trying to help, they're only around left-of-center people. So they began to think, like, oh, hey, because I want to help people, I must be a liberal, I must be a Democrat, I must be left of center, when it's just not the truth. And I began to see that.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm sure that you had some dealings while you were in New Orleans with the mayor Nagin at the time.
Mayor Nagin, I did have some dealings. I tried to avoid him though, because I always thought he was full of it, and it turns out I was right.
Yes. Okay, real quick, give me, you know what, because dude, I would love to sit down with you for about 18 hours and just listen, because I can tell that your heart is full when talking about these issues, and there's so many examples. One example while you were in New Orleans that maybe led to you at the end of your time there deciding to go back to Texas. Can you share one of those with us?
Oh man, I actually try not to even think about that, because it was such a sad time in my life. I was so upset, by so many things. At that point, I had gone to Venezuela, and Hugo Chavez was going to give us money, and for Chavez trailers to embarrass the U.S. government, because they weren't giving out the FEMA trailers, and I had gotten back from Venezuela, and when I got back after a month, it was complete anarchy had really reigned in all my projects. A lot of my local leaders who were doing projects, they were no longer doing them. They were all a bunch of predominantly, in fact, all white young transgender people who were in positions of leadership. The relationships with the community had suffered drastically. And what basically happened was a group of radicals decided to occupy the 9th Ward, and so they put the call out and allowed, hundreds, if not thousands of people, ultimately thousands, to come and stay at this one facility. And really what it was a predecessor to the Occupy movement. It was the same organizer, Lisa Fithian, who had organized it, the same little network of people. And they did the same thing that Occupy did. They acted the same way. Well, that didn't jive with the community. That didn't fit. The community wasn't cool with that, and at all. And it caused a lot of problems. So by the time I got back and I began to see that and just the decay that had happened, and I began to realize that none of the things I had tried to put in place were institutionalized, There were no checks and balances. If I left, it was a banana republic. If I left town for 2 days, they'd try to throw a coup and change everything and hurt everything. And, I ended up in a situation where I began to have a lot of respect for, say for our founding fathers, and the fact that we have a system with checks and balances, as imperfect as it is, right? And I began to not feel like I fit in. There was a million things that happened, a lot of things that happened, but long story short, I decided that it was time to go, and I went back to Texas, and I got a small piece of property with a house, and I started, I was having some issues fitting back into society for sure, to normal life. And, I planted a garden, and I got some chickens, and I tried to really just leave that part of my life behind. But it was really hard, because there I was, I wasn't a racist conservative at all. And, I didn't like racist conservatives, but I also didn't fit in with the left anymore. And I slowly began to realize that I actually had a lot of what I believed in and fought for was really right of center. I began to realize that there was something about our system of governance, as imperfect as it is, and as much as people in different agencies can really make me mad, I began to realize that there was something to respect. So I never was ashamed of what I had done in New Orleans, but I was ashamed of my rhetoric. I was ashamed of my divisive, I had a lot of rhetoric that I really did blame. I took the left of center worldview that cops were bad, that the system, that our government was bad, and that most of the wrong in the world had happened because of us and our greed and our capitalism. And I began to slowly, have to acknowledge that there were some, like for instance me, like I went to New Orleans, and I gave up a reasonably successful, for me, small concrete staining business when I went. And I went, and my resources helped found it, and my time, and I put the time in to learn and invest in that organization. But then these people would show up, and they would demand, these people from the far left, all these activists, and they would demand the same access to decision making and resources that I had, even though they didn't have any skin in the game, you know? And I always thought that was absurd, like the consensus process or the social. I was like, well, why should I share that with you when I'm the one who took all the risks to start this? You know, I'm the one who has the relationships here. You just showed up. Why should you be entitled to that? It's like, well, you're a white male in a position of power, and I'm a transgendered young person, and it's unfair that I don't get equal say with you. And it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that ain't going to happen, you know? And so I began to realize that I was, I began to realize that there was some legitimacy to why we don't have socialism or some hippie version of a consensus process in society, or why Americans don't live like the Zapatistas with a consensus model of governance. And I began to realize that there was something to that. So all these million things went on, but I came back and I was pretty discouraged. But when I did come back, and that's where the FBI informant stuff comes in, is when I did come back, a lot of those people from the left of center world, especially international people, a lot of them were actually involved in a lot of really bad stuff. So on the outside they helped people, but on the inside, they were doing things like sending money to suicide bombers, and so I turned them in, and that's how my relationship with the FBI began, and I was proud of doing that too, and make a long story short, when that ended, and I had to testify in a trial, and people on the left of center world found out that I had decided to work with the FBI, they decided to destroy me, and they tried to, and the highest halls of the highest editorial rooms in the country tried to, and that's ultimately how I met Andrew Breitbart. He heard them attacking me, and he got a hold of me and said, fight back, bro. And I said, I do fight back. He goes, why don't you? I was like, I do fight back. They won't print what I say. They're lying. And he's like, well, I've looked at this, and this isn't right. And I'm like, thank you. I know it's not right, but I can't do a damn thing about it. And then he said, well, you can, I'm starting a website, and you can work with me, and you can use my website to fight back. And that's how this all began, really.
It's interesting. Whoever controls the narrative controls the argument, and it seemed like and what Brandon is saying, some of the most important editorial places in the country are places like New York Times and the like, people like that who control the narrative, regardless of what the truth is. That's completely unimportant. If I could back up a little bit, I want to talk about the 2008 Republican National Convention. I guess it was in Minneapolis or Minnesota somewhere.
St.
Paul.
St. Paul, Minnesota. Well, it's like the Twin Cities, right?
Yes.
They're right next to each other, St. Paul, Minnesota, Minneapolis.
So tell me how all that went down, because that was the genesis of the court appearances and the like.
Well, there was a lot more to it than that. I mean, I had been working undercover for some time, and with the FBI, that was just one investigation. And in that investigation, there was, again, those same people, the same communities of people who showed up and tried to occupy New Orleans and later went on to occupy Zuccotti Park and do what they did. Those same communities of people, they began to organize across the country, and which is their right to do. But what isn't their right to do is they began to organize with the explicit stated goal of shutting down the Republican National Convention by any means necessary. That's where law enforcement got involved. Because when you do that, like you have the right to protest, but other people have a right to assemble and discuss their political views and to celebrate their political views. So when you start to threaten violence, arson, property destruction, and mayhem, and you say, I'm going to shut this down by any means necessary, well, that's when those other Americans have a right to have law enforcement protect their right. That's where what happened there. And so in the process of that investigation, different groups of people made bombs in an effort to shut down the convention. I found out about the bombs because I was undercover, and I told the FBI about the bombs, and about two of the bomb plots. One of them they handled, some other person undercover dealt with. But one of the guys pled guilty. The other guy decided to try his luck, and he said, I didn't do it, or the FBI planted him, and then they found out I was the one undercover. So the narrative just slowly kind of shifted and shifted and shifted until he had a pretty good defense for himself, and it started. That's when all hell really broke loose.
I was watching a video that you did a couple years ago while you were in Florida, and and you mentioned a plan that they talked about while you were at one of these meetings that you were in, they asked you to go in undercover. And I thought that people would be interested to find out how tactical, because I think that people think that the left is sort of emotional and soft and jiggly, but how tactical some of these people really are. And you mentioned her name a little bit ago. It had to do with three, and as I remember it, I watched the video last night. Had to do with
red,
three.
Red, yellow, and green.
Exactly.
Yeah, red, yellow, and green.
Explain to my listeners what that meant in that particular instance and how tactical these people actually are.
Well, yeah, but this is what they do in every demonstration. It's not in any mass demonstration. So what they do is they divide the organizers of the events. They divide. There's always like the peaceful organizers, and then there's the radical organizers, and they're really talking to each other, right? But they don't openly talk. They don't openly interact. So the peaceful people always go, "We're not part of those anarchists. That's not part of us. We're mostly peaceful, And the anarchists always act separate, but they're really organizing each other. For instance, in that particular case, a group named United for Peace and Justice organized the peaceful, nonviolent protest to the Republican convention of 10,000 people, right? Well, that sounds great, United for Peace and Justice. Well, someone on the steering committee, Lisa Fithian, for that group, she then organized the anarchists, right? And the Black Bloc. So you have the same group organizing the peaceful demonstrations and the violent demonstrations, okay? The dangerous ones, the criminal ones. So what she did is she said, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this city. Here's the Excel Center where the delegates have to go in order to choose a presidential candidate for the Republican Party. So in order to get to the Excel Center, they have to bring buses up one of these 5 arteries. So what we're going to do is block those 5 arteries. Well, the cops aren't going to let us block those 5 arteries. So we're going to divide the protests up, and we're going to have, X percentage of people at each artery. Now, in that group of people, the green group, there's all these people who are just there to protest. They would never break the law. If we told them they were going to break the law, they wouldn't show up. They're just decent people. We're going to have those people there with our group leaders organizing the protest, and then we're going to have 2 other groups. So we're going to have the yellow group, and that's going to be the group that chains themselves up across the road so that buses can't come through. But law enforcement isn't going to let the yellow group chain themselves up, and the yellow group is the ones who are going to get arrested. They know they're going to go to jail for civil disobedience, right? They're the arrestable group. So what we're going to do is have the group leaders encourage everybody out into the street. Say, let's cross the street. And they start crossing a stop, and then they're going to stop and block the road, right? Well, then the police are going to tell them to get out of the road, and they're going to get out of the road because they're law-abiding citizens. But that's going to give the yellow group time to lock down and buckle down and chain themselves up and under the cover of the green group, even though the green group doesn't realize they're being used to cover for the yellow group, right, for the criminal behavior. And so if the green group gets out of the road too quick and that doesn't give the yellow group time to lock down, well, then that's when the red group comes in, the Black Bloc anarchists. They're going to come in with masks on and riot shields, and they're going to attack the police. And then between the green group and the red group, that's going to give the yellow group time to lock down. Well, then the red group's going to flee, and they're going to mix into the crowd of the green group. So then the police are going to go after them and go after the green group, right, which is now the crowd with the red group in it too. And then all the people in the green group, it's going to look like the police are attacking nonviolent protesters. All the people in the green group are going to think that they were nonviolent and that for no reason the police went after them and threw tear gas at them. and the yellow groups locked down. And then when it's all said and done, everyone can say, yeah, there were some people doing this with police, but it wasn't us. It wasn't our group. And that's how they organized that shutdown. It's a brilliant way to organize it. It's red, yellow, green. And the whole time, the mass of people had no idea they were being manipulated to cover for the illegal behaviors of these cop attackers.
It sort of seems like that's what Ferguson looked like.
It's because you know why Ferguson looked that way? Because Lisa Fithian was in Ferguson organizing it.
Well, there you go.
Same person.
That's apparently her fingerprint, because it looked like that. Because and I had some friends who were there, and they reported back to me that there were some good people there who were from the community, who were peaceful, who were just trying to get their voices heard, who were law abiding, who were following as best they could the directions of law enforcement, and then it seemed like all hell broke loose.
That's why it breaks loose. That's what happens. And so, and it's not to say there aren't law enforcement who abuse their power, because there are. We know there are. Mm-hmm. We know it's not the majority, but we know that those people exist in any field, right? It's just that most fields don't have people with guns who can hit you. So we know those people exist, and it's not to say they don't, but the vast majority of law enforcement is not that way. And generally, if they're going at a crowd, you're going to notice it happens right after there was a violent attack, and the crowd mingled in with the group of that's part of the strategy, and that's how it happens. And so not only does the crowd not know it, but law enforcement generally doesn't realize that that's what's going on. And that's what's sad. The FBI knows that's what's going on, and the intelligence divisions of a police department would know what's going on if they had proper work beforehand. But in general, they don't know what's the average officer on the street doesn't realize that that's what they do.
Well, it seems to be like there's some training issues. You know what, Brandon, you spent some time with a person that all of us who do this independent media gig feel like we knew. We didn't. Even if we met him, we all feel like we knew Andrew Breitbart. I'll tell you what. I'm telling you why I had to talk to you, and I'm going to talk to Sonny on Wednesday, is because the very first real interview that I did on terrestrial radio was with Andrew Breitbart, and I was horrendous, and he was gracious and fabulous. I cringe when I listen to that interview now. He had just brought his kids back from rock and roll camp, and he was amazing. And so you felt like, he made you feel like, you're doing okay. You just keep going. It was so encouraging. And when I met him in Orlando, same thing. And I know this is a sort of a TMZ kind of question, and I apologize in advance.
Go ahead. It's okay.
What was it like to be around somebody who, when you meet somebody who is great, they treat you in a way, you just know there's something special about this individual. What was it like to work with Andrew on a daily basis?
I spent a quarter of the time doubting him and finding out I was wrong later, and when he had a way to do things, and I spent 75% of the time just utterly in awe, just utter awe about the man had such a brain, but it wasn't just his brain. A lot of people have a brain. I mean, a lot of people have a good brain, and they're 2 or 3 times smarter than me, and I know they are, and he was, and I could tell he was, and there's a lot of people who are smarter than me, though. I mean, that's not hard to accomplish. But what he did that was so interesting is, and it's so different, the thing that he did that was so different was that he didn't build himself up at all. Like, he would get on a stage and he would talk about me and Sonny and Anita Moncrief, and he would just talk about all the other people that people needed to support and their stories. And he would do it all the time. And you're like, man, you got to promote yourself. And he's like, no, the way I promote myself is I promote other people. That's what I do with my name recognition. And most people don't do that. So he had this passion. Like, if you were a grassroots group and you asked him to come talk, I mean, he would really try to come talk. He couldn't always do it, but he very rarely said no. And if you were a larger group and you were like, hey, we'll pay you, like, I remember there was an issue where speakers bureau wanted to have him under their wing and pay him a lot of money per speech, but he couldn't speak in between, and he wouldn't do it, you know. So here was this guy starting a company, didn't have a lot of resources at the time, and he turned down a bunch of money because it just meant too much to him to talk to the grassroots. That's what he was all about. And so he took people like me, who, you know, I didn't go to college. I didn't even go to high school, man. You know, and I didn't finish high school. Like, I started 9th grade, but I never finished. And he like, I never finished 9th grade, you know. And he would take someone like me, and he'd say, "Man, you got to write." And I'm like, "I don't know how to write." And he's like, "Doesn't matter." And I'm like, "Well, it does matter. It's embarrassing as hell if I try to write something." He goes, "No, I have editors. They'll work with you. We'll teach you. It'll be okay. In a couple of years, you'll get it." And I'm like, "Dude, okay." And so you start writing. They work with you, and they tell you why they did this change and what, and how you should have structured it differently. Like, it was almost like his editors were you know, English teachers or something, right? And he didn't care. And he would always say, you know, it's easier to find people with the right heart than it is to find people with the right skill set and then give them the right heart. It's much easier to give people the skill set. And that was his attitude, and that's what he did. So he went around promoting everyone else and, like, defending everyone else, and then he like would just do everything in the world to, like, I mean, like me today, man. Like I was always a blue collar guy, and I did, you know, for probably because of just my conversational skills and my attitude. I tend to organize very well in communities where they need some help organizing, you know. And other than that, that's what I have. I have no degree. I have no, and I'm the editor of a news site, and we do really well. We're very competitive. We're a very large and growing news site. And it's like, well, how does that happen? It happened because somebody took the time, like Andrew took the time. You know, he took the time to teach me the skills he knew I needed, because I always felt like somebody must feel who's illiterate, you know? Like I felt like I have all this stuff in me I want to say, you know, and I want to put out, and I want to create, and I want to write. I just don't know how to do it. And he really helped to teach me how to do it, man. And it was kind of one of those deals where, you know, it's kind of funny because people often, this shocks people when I say this, but probably the two people who really helped me the most when it came to what I do now, you know, when I first got to New Orleans, I could not speak. I did not know how to give an interview. I did not know how to talk. I just didn't know how to do that. And there was this former Black Panther named Malik Rahim who hates me now because I'm an enemy and I'm FBI and all, you know, all that stuff. Yeah. And I don't care that he hates me now. I don't hate him now, you know. And, yeah, his politics, I don't agree with his politics. But he taught me how to talk and how to give an interview. And he was very influential on me. His attitude about helping was very how to help people. And that group, as much as we can hate their politics and hate all the other mistakes about the former Panthers, not the new ones, but there's a lot I learned from those guys, you know, and especially Malik. And then after that, it was Andrew. So those two people are really the biggest influences on how I do what I do, you know, is Andrew and this former Panther. Go figure, right? Go figure. But that was Andrew, and Andrew knew that, and Andrew thought that was brilliant. He liked that, and he was okay with that, you know. And so that's when you say, what was it like to be around him? I mean, there's not a lot of people who were really close to him who, if you ask him about him now, don't start to get teary and have a hard time talking, because he was just that good of a person in our lives, you know. He found the downtrodden people who were being done unfair, you know, done wrong. And he, like, said, you know, I'll make you whole. I'll give you a voice. And he did that. And he did that for so many people, not just me. You know, it wasn't like something was special about me. There were so many people he did that for. And that's why I think you see the people who knew him still, you know, love him so much and miss him so much. It's because we're in a world now where there's just not a lot of people like that. And even I try to be like that to people, but I fail, man. Like, I fail all the time, you know. I disappoint people all the time, or I really do, or I don't call people back all the time, but he somehow, running that empire he ran, he would call everyone back. He he would, he just had 100 hours a day to be on the phone and encouraging people, and I don't have that. So I like I said, I try to follow that model, but I fail miserably. So I hope that sheds a little light on to what that was like.
Oh, and it was, and it's funny, Ben. It's just what I thought it was. I'm usually a pretty good judge of folks, and the way that we set that interview up a few years ago, and the way that he treated me on the phone, and the way that he called back, and all that stuff was like, you know what? You're important. He didn't know me from Adam's House Cat. I was on this little radio station here in Tampa, WGUL. Nobody had ever heard of, and he was like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. I called him up on the cell, and he said, that'd be great. When do you want me to do it? And he was so accommodating that I knew that this is not an individual who was doing it for me, because, dude, I am nobody special. Most people look at me and go, who the hell are you and where'd you come from? and I don't have a really good answer for them. I said, I'm just me, and I came from home. So that's exactly kind of what I expected. That being around somebody like Andrew Breitbart was that, and more importantly, he has imparted that very same thing, that very same desire in a lot of us to be that kind of individual. So that's the important part of the Breitbart legacy, which needs to be the next movie, by the way. So get the powers that be on that. I think that would be a fabulous idea, because there is a legacy. And there are some great people who are involved, including yourself, by the way. So just say thank you. Who are involved in, that legacy that is going to make the change that the country needs so desperately. To wake up folks in all our communities to say simply, the message is very simple. I think, like Brandon, your message is very simple. We can help each other quicker, better, more effectively, more long-lasting than a bloated, politically driven government from Washington, D.C. or your state capital. We are better to help our neighbor who lives next door across the street than anybody else. We know more about them. We know what they really need. We know how to get to them what they really need. And that seems to be a message that I think will resound anytime and anywhere. This is not political. This is not about, we need Republicans instead of Democrats. We need people who understand that, without the motive that some of the people that you mentioned have, who are behind the scenes, some of the shadowy figures behind the scenes. All right, Brandon, tell me what's next for Breitbart.com. What's next? What's the next big thing?
Well, I focus on Breitbart, Texas, and obviously, the front page of Breitbart is a culmination of all the verticals, So I focus on Texas. So we're starting a podcast with the Border Patrol guys, with the Border Patrol agents, cool, on the Texas border, and we're just, we're stepping up our game when it comes to border issues, when it comes to communities. One of the projects we're gonna get into. I'm not going to get into a bunch of detail on it right now because it'll curse the project. But we're gonna start to bring a lot of attention to situations in low-income communities across the state. We're going to start to bring a lot of attention to not only the situation in those communities, but on people and groups who are trying to do something about it. So we have a healthy mix of sex, drugs, violence, and helping. Like we just the news, really, like everything that goes on in our world. And so we're just constantly stepping it up, and we've done really well, so we're able to grow and just always trying to look for the right people to do that with. So that's what we have coming up. I mean, we have so many different things. One of the I can't even begin, but we have good stuff coming. Our next year is going to be better than our previous, I think, and our previous was pretty dang good.
That's what it's all about: constant and never-ending improvement. That's what it's all about. Well, Brandon, I am honored. I feel like I've stepped it up a level, that I'm in a different place now because I've gotten a chance to talk to you, and I know that sounds all but it's the truth. I feel like I'm somewhere else, like I'm somebody else, that I've taken the next step to where I'm supposed to be. Thank you again for spending a little time with us. I appreciate it greatly. And if there's anything that I can do from here, please know that all you have to do is ask. That's it. It's real easy. I make it real easy. Just ask me. That's it. And
thank you.
You're very welcome. And to the best of my ability, I am on it. That's all you have to do. All righty. Listen, thanks so much for coming. Listen, go out there and continue to be productive, be prosperous. Watch those YouTube videos. Listen, don't let that hair get too long. If it gets too long, it gets unruly. So see if you can convince yourself a little shorter cut. They're a lot easier to deal with. Keep it natural. See, I'm married to a black woman. Keep it natural if you can. Keep those chemicals out of her little head, and that'll make life so much easier in the long run. God bless you and your family and your endeavors, and thank you again for coming to the Willie Lawson here on Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, good night. All righty. That's Brandon Darby, Breitbart, Texas, on the show. I am telling you, I'm not the same. I'm just not the same guy. I'm not the same. When I hear someone like Brandon who saw the progressive ideology, who saw it and was able to look through it, because what do we always say here? The left will always show you who they are. And this false narrative that keeps being driven by the left, if you're somebody who loves people and wants to help, then you must be on the left. We're going to do a show on iHeartRadio tonight concerning that very same topic. How to stop that narrative and how we continue to stop that narrative. All right, we got to get out of here. Thanks for coming to the Willie Lawson Show here on Blog Talk Radio. It has been fabulous. It's been wonderful. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow, where my guest will be Robert Stacy McCain of the Other McCain website. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here on Blog Talk Radio. This is a show that changes your mind so you can change your community for the better.